RPN is not responsible for the views, actions, statements, or opinions of its guests, advertisers, or even its viewers. The information contained in this program is not to be confused with medical or legal advice. An appearance on this platform is not necessarily an endorsement, but as always, we encourage you to do your own research. Enjoy the show. Good evening, everyone. And of course, welcome back to another very exciting episode of Red Pill News Live. Things are getting hot on the cold and snowy streets of Minneapolis. Of course, yesterday it was announced that DHS had surged thousands of agents into the city, already rounding up over 1,000 criminals, illegal aliens, people with final orders of deportation. And today, things went kinetic. Now, we'll hear all about that. We're also going to hear a couple of special messages from President Trump. I totally missed my anniversary show yesterday for January 6th because my internet didn't work. I suppose God works in mysterious ways. He did not want me to be up here on air wincing through my show. The answer is I definitely did not get pain pills, and I'm definitely not feeling much better. My what is it, like my back brace, I got a belt that wraps around your back, that helps, but I am still having just as much of a hard time getting around, moving around. Usually if I'm sitting still, if I can take a little pressure off of that back, then it's better. So listen, I need some help from you guys. Do me a favor. Hit that like button. Help us out by sharing the show. Hit the red pill, whatever it might be. Get in there. Tell them that you like the show. Help us by sharing it and get ready, because we're about to get into it right about now. All right, my friends, welcome back. I'm glad you guys are here. Thank you very much for joining me. As always, my name is Zak Paine, the corruption detector, and today it's another episode of Red Pill News Live right here on Red Pill 78. Need to give a big shout out, first of all, to my friend FilterDog1 over there on Pilled. FilterDog says, what a day. I need a second wind. Hopefully, my friend, we can go ahead and offer that to you. And then Cyrus the Great 87, my old friend over on Rumble, says, I would say we are at the precipice. LOL, Russia said they want the smoke. Ooh, man. I think there's a lot of people out there who are requesting that smoke. President Trump and the American Patriots are about to deliver. Oh, man. There is currently a hearing going on in Congress regarding the craziness happening in Minnesota with Somali fraud. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the kinetic actions on the ground today. Tragedies. Of course, nobody ever should lose their life acting the fool out there on the streets. But I have to say, this is the logical extension of developing brain rot after being told by your leaders consistently that ICE agents are the same thing as the Nazi Gestapo. They are not. They are trying to enforce the law. And the people who are out there trying to stop them are either too stupid, too naive, or simply, I don't know, maybe they're communists and they want the country to fall apart. That's honestly probably a fair assessment. So anyways, you guys, let us jump into the news right now. First of all, a couple of announcements from the president. He made the crucial post earlier today saying that for a very long time, buying and owning a home was considered the pinnacle of the American dream. Now, as many of you here know, that dream has become too far out of reach for a lot of people. And that has got a lot to do with institutional investors, companies like BlackRock, companies like Blackstone, companies that you probably have thought about quite often when you were out there in the market looking for your home. Down here in Florida in 2021, when Lisa and I were looking for a house, I was literally month by month watching the prices of houses skyrocket. And it got to the point where I was like, if I don't get a house right now, there's no way I'm ever going to be able to move to Florida. Thank Jesus I was able able to do so. So he continues by saying it was the reward for working hard and doing the right thing. But now, because of the record high inflation caused by Joe Biden and the Democrats in Congress, the American dream is increasingly out of reach for far too many people, especially young Americans. It is for that reason and much more that I am immediately taking steps to ban large institutional investors from buying more single-family homes, and I will be calling on Congress to codify it. People live in homes, not corporations. I will discuss this topic including further housing and affordability proposals and more at my speech in Davos in 2 weeks. Of course, Davos is going to be where the rest of the globalist establishment is going to be joining President Trump, probably pulling their hair out at the fact that President Trump has successfully been taking down the deep state and dismantling the New World Order, and in its place establishing the Trump World Order, which is the age of nations, national sovereignty coming back on the menu for so many different places. Mishy Me says, Zach, you need to start stretching your quads and hamstrings. I absolutely agree with you. I haven't been able to do much since Saturday. No stretches for me whatsoever, and really not a lot of physical activity. So I am as soon as my back is healed, I'm going to immediately begin with a specific regimen for stretching. I'm also going to be regularly going back to the chiropractor instead of waiting until something terrible happens. And hopefully all of those things together, along with my calisthenic workout that I would love to get back into, that's going to address all of these various things. I also want to say thank you very much to my good friend Lee Walden. He says, ahoy, Zach and Miss Lisa and crew. You folks are the best sons of bitches that money can't buy. All the best to you and yours. Truly, you're doing God's work. Zach, your mom must be very proud. Love you. Mean it. Love you too, buddy. And yes, my mom is definitely very proud. She's out there in the audience. And if she's not there at this moment, I think she's probably going to be watching later on. So this is obviously something that's going to help quite a bit. If we can get the institutional investors out of the housing market, they've been purchasing homes, reducing the supply available to new buyers. And of course, that pushes up the price, and they will either sell high or they will hold on to them, and then they will rent them out to people for exorbitant amounts of money. You know, what would really be helpful is if President Trump has some aspect of this plan which would force places like BlackRock, Blackstone to put these houses back on the market at reasonable prices rather than putting them on the market at inflated prices. Certainly, it's going to do a lot more than giving people 50-year mortgages. You know what else I would like to see President Trump do away with? Usurious lending practices. Get rid of compound interest on mortgages, because by the time, if you've ever looked at how much you're actually paying over the life of a loan, a 30-year mortgage, you are paying far more than you actually took out at the beginning, and it costs the bank nothing, especially because the money never actually exists. The only thing they offer you is simply, the promise that somebody else is going to get that money in the end, and the vast majority of your income ends up going to them. Take a look at your amortization schedule if you have a mortgage, and try to imagine like how much a 30-year mortgage is in comparison to a 50-year mortgage. A 50-year mortgage is going to be just absolutely insane. 50-year mortgages should never be part of the conversation. All right, now, continuing. President Trump also made an announcement that executives at U.S. defense contractors will no longer be allowed to make more than $5 million unless they build new and modern production plants. President Trump has, on a number of occasions, and with members of the military-industrial complex standing directly behind him in the White House, made mention of the fact that many of these people have just been taking dividends, and they've been getting paid on stock buybacks, and they're getting incredible salaries, while at the same time giving the United States of America no usable products, or products that are way behind on deadlines, or inflated costs. I mean, they just continue to milk the American taxpayer. Now, when President Trump announced this on Truth Social, the stock price of Lockheed Martin dropped like a stone, because I bet you every single one of these executives who have been holding onto their stock, boom, they all just sold outright. So President Trump says that all United States defense contractors and the defense industry as a whole beware. While we make the best military equipment in the world, no other country is even close. Defense contractors are currently issuing massive dividends to their shareholders and massive stock buybacks at the expense and detriment of investing in plants and equipment. This situation will no longer be allowed or tolerated. Also, executive pay packages in the defense industry are exorbitant and unjustifiable, given how slowly these companies are delivering vital equipment to our military and our allies. Salaries, stock options, and every other form of compensation are far too high for these executives. Not to mention the products that are being delivered to our military, like $10,000 hammers, $20,000 toilets. Just this stuff is absolutely ridiculous. Defense companies are not producing our great military equipment rapidly enough, and once produced, not maintaining it properly or quickly. From this moment forward, these executives must build new and modern production plants, both for delivering and maintaining this equipment, and for building the latest models of future military equipment. Until they do so, no executives should be allowed to make in excess of $5 million, which, as high as it sounds, is a mere fraction of what they are making now. Additionally, the maintenance and repair of equipment once sold is far too slow and must be immediately enhanced. As president, I am demanding that maintenance be spot on and on time. Another horror story that I heard was about, I believe it was a control board in a U.S. military aviation aircraft, and there was like a button that needed to be fixed. And in order to get that button, you had to make the request from the original defense contractor. The button itself was like $10,000, even though, like, if you were to go to, I don't know, like a Lowe's or something like that, you could get something to replace it and you could do it yourself. But because of the way everything is built around the military industrial complex, you have to go through this chain of vendors. And the only way to do it is to pay way more money than is even feasible. And they also don't make these things on hand. So everything is produced sort of like in a boutique fashion. So therefore, I will not permit dividends or stock buybacks for defense companies until such time as these problems are rectified. Likewise, for salaries and executive compensation, military equipment is not being made fast enough. It must be built now with the dividends, stock buybacks, and overcompensation of executives rather than borrowing it from financial institutions or getting the money from your government. Long term, this is good for both executives and shareholders because it will make great for our country. Thank you again for your attention to this matter. Make America great again. Thank you so much. Hey, Dom Dem, missed you as well. Thank you for being here, buddy. All right, what is that? Something weird just happened. All right, so, yes, it is back pain day. That is correct, yeah. See what you did there. All right, so I was so eager to talk about this story yesterday. Not only given everything that we've learned about Somali fraud, and I guess, fraud in a ubiquitous sense all across the United States of America, but because this story is not only about fraud, it was also about January 6th, which had our anniversary yesterday, and it's also about Lieutenant Michael Byrd. Lieutenant Michael Byrd, of course, the murderer of Ashley Babbitt. It's also, I suppose, fitting that we're talking about Michael Byrd today and the death of Ashley Babbitt, and then we also have a sort of juxtaposition to that when we get to Minneapolis. But what is special about Michael Byrd is that he and I guess his wife have an unlicensed daycare center in their home, which is, wouldn't you know it, taxpayer funded. Now, during the life of this daycare center, can't guarantee or verify that any children actually go there or that anybody is taken care of. But I can tell you that this taxpayer-funded daycare center in Michael Byrd's home has received $190 million in child care funds, and this is located in Maryland. So, you probably remember one of the last things that Joe Biden did, and actually it's more appropriate to say his auto pen did the work, but he left a giveaway to Captain, at that time, Michael Byrd, gave him a free pardon because of the fact that he shot and killed Ashley Babbitt in cold blood during the course of the events of January 6th. Now, there was plenty of evidence to suggest that Ashley Babbitt was unarmed. she was attempting to climb through that window, and while that may not have been the best idea, she had also stopped other people from committing acts of violence. Nobody will know what was going through Ashley's head and why she attempted to go through there. However, she was a one single 110-pound woman. Of course, she was also an Air Force veteran. And it wasn't just Michael Byrd on the other side of that window. There was a whole bunch of other Capitol policemen, and I would assume Secret Service agents, and they all had their weapons drawn. They could have, hit Ashley across the face or something like that. It's not like she was driving a car. They could have done something to subdue her if they thought that she was potentially going to be a danger. But all you can see in that video is Ashley climbing through the window, Michael Byrd shooting her in the chest. She falls back, boom, she is gone pretty quickly thereafter. Now, you also probably remember Michael Byrd because we've talked about him on a number of occasions, including the one time he left his service revolver, a Glock 22, in the visitor center bathroom back in February of 2019. I believe a child found that Glock 22. Now, luckily, nothing happened at that time, but Michael Byrd has continually done things to make his presence on this force questionable. There have been a number of times that he's had his police powers revoked because he didn't even know how to use his gun safely. Now, when he was finally interviewed by NBC about the murder of Ashley Babbitt, he was, of course, defiant. He said that Ashley Babbitt deserved what she got and that by shooting her, he saved countless lives. I'm not exactly sure how he came to that assessment. Perhaps it's the idea that, well, if I hadn't have shot Ashley Babbitt, a whole bunch of other people would have probably climbed through that window and then I would have had to shoot them as well. He also said that he had been getting death threats because people didn't like him because he shot an unarmed woman in the chest. So anyways, he said, I was just doing my job. Well, it was determined just this week by investigative journalist Paul Sperry that former Lieutenant, now Captain Mike Byrd, and his wife, Kalisha, have been operating this in-home unlicensed daycare from their residence in Brandywine, Maryland. They've been doing it since 2008. That is nearly 17 years. You can check this out yourself. Public records and listings show that Care Lulu, a site where you can look up daycares, confirm the existence of this family care provider operating under Kalisha Byrd's name or Kaleska Byrd's name. I don't know. It's not a name I've ever said out loud before. Their license is Maryland license number 255727. Again, they are open apparently 365 days a year in Brandywine, Maryland. It is registered and licensed by the Maryland State Department of Education's Office of Child Care. They meet the basic state requirements for operation, so I'm assuming it's not dirty or, infested with lice or rats or cockroaches. However, it does not appear on Maryland's list of accredited family child care centers. Those are ones that meet a higher standard. Now, accreditation is optional, but it is a sign that the daycare has demonstrated a higher quality. It is not required for federal funding. So just so you know, you too can open up an unaccredited child care center and probably get a whole hell of a lot of money. But the most egregious aspect of this, $190 million in HHS funds. They've been open for nearly 17 years, and that would mean that they have gotten a lot of cash every single year. How many freaking kids do they have there? $193 million is the total allocation in Maryland, and it's actually distributed across many different child care centers. So this is the facility right here. It's a normal home, and there are no reviews. You can see here they have a section for reviews. It's the Lakewood Kids Discovery House in Brandywine. If they've been open for 17 years, you would assume that they would get, at least one parental review, but they've got none. That seems to me to indicate perhaps there could be some fraud going on. Now, in 2008, when Kaleska began this daycare center, 10 years later, they were forced to forfeit their license because they did not pay the $25 renewal fee, but Then they ended up getting it back. There was an inspection on June 17th of this year, and there were 4 children that were enrolled. However, we don't know much else other than that. Now, it looks like a single child would have a value of about $15,250 a year. Don't know, again, how many kids she is having there on a regular basis. If this 4 was just for that one day, perhaps they have more kids during the school year. I don't know. But I just want to say, I don't think Michael Bird is the guy that you want around your kids, considering how quickly he fires his gun, especially when he sees a woman. Now, also in relation to January 6th, we have a little bit of news coming from the good people at Judicial Watch. Hang on. God, I cannot. Oh, son of a bitch. Lisa, I need a towel. I need a towel bad, real bad. Please hurry. Please hurry. Thank you, Frodo Baggins, for the Bitcoin. Oh, honey, I know that you're on a delay. Lisa! Oh, shit. Hurry. Oh, God. Well, it's not moving. I suppose. Oh, it is starting to move. I need a towel. Oh, hold on. I've got this towel that I usually use to clean off my computer screen. That will work. Even though it's, oh, God. Thank you. Thank you. Oh. Well, you can take this one. Hold on. I got to make sure that I get everything. Yeah, I know. You gave me 2. Yeah, you did. Okay. I think that's good for right now. Okay. Just leave that one. Yeah. I'm not going to use my shirt. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I'm not going to use my shirt. I'm not taking my shirt off on the air. Oh my God. Look at everybody. Use your shirt. What are you guys? Are you kidding me? Okay. All right. So last year in June, Tom Fitton and the people at Judicial Watch released a video suggesting that the CIA was at the U.S. state capitol on January 6th of... Oh, my God. You guys are too funny. So the CIA was in D.C. on January 6th. That's obviously very notable because we know the FBI was there. We know that for people who were also present at the Capitol on January 6th, there was clearly some type of paramilitary presence. We know about the Ukrainians. The Azov Battalion was there. The FBI was there. The CIA was there. I mean, who else was there? Was Delta Force there? Were there SEALs there? Were there Green Berets? I don't know, but I want to know. So it seems only right that we should ask the various agencies who would have the knowledge to tell us. So let's go ahead and take a look at this video from Tom Fitton. And he'll tell us a little bit more about what's going on. I need to open up X to jump there.
For documents that show the CIA had folks involved in the response to January 6th.
I mean, that's not normal, just so everybody knows. The CIA does not have the right or the charter to operate here in the United States of America. I've said this before, though, so in case you don't know, there is a workaround for that. If the CIA is attached to a domestic organization, like, say, the FBI or the ATF or any other such domestic federal agency, they can actually hang out and do business, okay? They can help in whatever way is deemed necessary.
Now, I got a question for you. What if I had told you 3 weeks ago, and I said, I think the CIA was involved somehow on January 6th. Somehow they were involved somehow. I'd probably get thrown off the internet, right? For promoting a conspiracy theory.
Not here, Tom. Not here. Because we know the truth on Red Pill News. We have already established this. Now, let me, real quick, I got a couple of more thank yous. Let me say thank you to Jim Kyle. Zach tried Tiger Balm. So Lisa actually bought some Tiger Balm. I don't have Tiger Balm, but I have a whole host of other natural balms in addition to the DMSO, and I can put that on my back. So I've been going through kind of like what I already have, but once the Tiger Bomb gets here, I'll use it. Lee Walden also says, drip, drip, flood, and that SOB as a federal law officer would not qualify for a shotgun. Tricia said, everyone's talking about that shirt. That's my favorite shirt of all that you wear. I want it. It's out of stock. Yes, this is also one of my favorite shirts, and it will come back into stock maybe eventually. I know it's come back once in the last like 4 months or something like that.
But we just uncovered documents that show the CIA had folks involved in the response to January 6th. And here's my video first highlighting it.
Hey everyone, Judicial Watch President Tom Fitton here with some massive news. Judicial Watch just uncovered that the CIA...
So I actually also have a TENS unit, and it went bad because I was using it, and you can adjust the intensity. So I was using it one day after the last time my back went out, and it helped out a ton. It was great. But the last time I used it, I had it turned on, and all of a sudden the intensity jumped to 11. It was actually way higher than it was supposed to be. It was like I could not dial it down, and I turned it down, and it didn't matter. I just had to tear it off my back, but it was like I was getting tased at the time that I did it. So I've also been using a heating pad, also been using this this back brace belt thing. All right, so the CIA was in D.C. on January 6th. They had bomb techs, allegedly, that were there. They were assisting with the response. And Tom Fitton and the people at Judicial Watch have attempted to file a FOIA request because they wanted to know exactly what the CIA was doing there. Have you tried Percocet? No, because I'm an addict and I don't want any Percocet in my system. It would probably help a treat, though. It'd go down well, but it's not going to do me much good in the long run. All right, so they were told when they went for this FOIA request that it's going to be several years. I believe it was 4 years, 4 to 8 years before the CIA. Yeah, there we go. 4 more years. So which would be, I suppose, 9 to 10 years after January 6th. That's when they would finally be able to give that, just do some more squats. The squats really actually helped. They made it feel better. If I am able to get moving, then it actually helps me feel better. It's like when I sit still and then I have to force my body to do something again. That's when it starts to hurt. So the question, of course, becomes, why is it necessary to wait until the next presidential election has already come and passed before they're going to give up information? I think the answer is pretty obvious. The CIA is clearly hiding something. And like usual, they're waiting for one or more people to die before they're willing to pass out this information. They're also hoping maybe in the meantime they can go ahead and destroy a lot of that stuff. So I don't have Salon Pause patches, but I've got other patches, believe me. I've got everything, you guys, and I have really tried to get to use all of it and to make it work. But so far, nothing has really done the treat. All right, now, also yesterday, with it being the anniversary of January 6th, congressional Democrats staged a candle-lit vigil. Look at this. They gave more respect to the people who didn't actually die at January 6th than they did to, I don't know, the U.S. Service members who were blown up during Joe Biden's disastrous withdrawal of Afghanistan. They gave more respect, I think, even than they did to the people from 9/11. I mean, you name a tragedy here in the United States, and I don't think that Congress has ever put together a display such as this. Look at all these pious mother effers with their eyes closed and I don't even know these are real candles. It would not surprise me if these are like battery operated candles and they're just doing this for the photo opportunity, but everybody's got their eyes closed. They look as if they're praying. It's like this somber moment. Go out and walk. Yeah, no, you're right. Like I said, if I'm moving around, it's not such a big deal. So This clear photo opportunity was held last night. It was held in the Capitol building, and it was led by Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries and Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer. They stood out in front of the Capitol in the location, I believe, of where the scaffolding was when the events took place. And they acted as if they were celebrating something that must be remembered fondly. Now, adding to the ridiculous nature of this event, Eric Swalwell directly compared January 6th to 9/11, and he said that he thinks about January 6th and he has the same level of sorrow as he does when he remembers the 3,000 people who died on 9/11. Absolutely fascinating. Let's take a listen.
We treat the day with the same reverence, so we remember, we don't look away. We treat the day with the same reverence, the same sorrow, and the same resolve as the day the towers fell, because the moment we forget is the moment we, as a country, also fall.
Now, you know what? He's not wrong, because there were a number of people who died on January 6th. It's just that it wasn't anybody who voted for Eric Swalwell or Joe Biden or Nancy Pelosi or any of those people. It was only Trump supporters who lost their lives as a result of the events of January 6th, the Fedsurrection, if you will. Now, President Trump and the White House, they actually put up a website debunking all of the lies of January 6th, and they also paid homage to those American patriots who died as a result of January 6th. You know, of course, if you speak to a leftist about this today, you'll say cops were killed on January 6th. What about Brian Sicknick? As tragic as Brian Sicknick's death was, that was due to a stroke, and it happened days after January 6th. Had nothing to do with January 6th. There wasn't a single man or woman in uniform who was working in the Capitol that day who lost their life as a result of what happened on January 6th. Of course, American patriots were shot in the chest. Another one was smothered near the Capitol tunnel. I had a guy right behind me who died from a heart attack when a flashbang went off over our heads. So there's plenty of people who died. It just wasn't anybody that I would imagine Eric Swalwell would be paying fealty to. All right. Now, we do also have a public comment from Senator Mark Kelly, soon to be demoted Captain retired Mark Kelly. And of course, he's not happy about the fact that Pete Hegseth and the Pentagon are lowering his rank, reducing his pension and his retirement. And of course, you should all be aware there is an ongoing investigation to see what else should happen to Mark Kelly. I hope that a whole hell of a lot more is coming his way. Pete Hegseth has said publicly that Mark Kelly committed sedition. I mean, he certainly tried to interfere with the morale of U.S. men and women serving in the armed forces. So I don't know that sedition is going to be something we're going to be able to prove, I hope. Well, you know what? Maybe if anybody could do it, it's a military court-martial. So let's go ahead and take a listen.
They talk about how this is a law enforcement operation, but if in fact 150 airplanes were used from, multiple services, it feels, less to me law enforcement and more like a military operation. Let me make it perfectly clear. This letter or anything that Pete Hegseth says or does to me is in no way going to affect the way I do my job and represent my constituents.
Well, it may have an effect on how you do your job or you represent your constituents. I mean, if they throw you in the brig, Mark Kelly, you're not going to be representing those constituents any longer. They may make it so that you're no longer able to be a senator. You might just lose your job. And they can ship you off to, I don't know, what's the deepest, darkest nation in Africa where we have a base? I mean, someplace that's a literal hellhole. Send him to Somalia. Why not? Let's go ahead and put him on a ship and send him to Somalia. Keep him off the coast and have him taking pot shots at Somali pirates. Then you're not going to be representing anybody in Arizona.
Constituents in the United States Senate. Ain't happening. So, his option, right now is he can continue with this kind of bull, or he can go take a hike. That's his options. And if I have an opportunity to, tell him that tomorrow, maybe I will.
Well, it remains to be seen if Mark Kelly is going to have the balls to step up to the Secretary of War, but I don't think it's going, that boisterous, blustery attitude is going to do much for him, because if anybody is going to show him the door, I think it's going to be Pete Hegseth. Wounds Are Us says, it's funny, Trump talks about American prosperity while the Dems have a funeral. That is correct. Thank you so much for that $20 rant. Sean Joe, thank you for the can. Judy the Lady Pug says, you need Red Pill Ken to make a house call massage. That would be super sweet. Judy the Lady Pug also says, what is wrong with your shirt? Nothing is wrong with my shirt. Sean Joe, thank you for the cookie, the can. Dixie, thank you for the can as well. All right, so I don't think that the Department of War is done with Mark Kelly. I'd like to see exactly how this pans out. But, man, I think he's probably going to find himself court-martialed. He certainly deserves it. All right, now, here we have another strange case of Democrat corruption, this time a sheriff from Charlotte. He's under investigation for essentially running what is being billed as a local police-run mafia. District Attorney Spencer Merriweather has formally requested the North Carolina State Bureau of Investigation to probe allegations of attempted extortion and corruption against Democrat Sheriff Gary McFadden. There is Gary right there. Looks like Mecklenburg County, North Carolina is where Gary is currently the sheriff. This investigation follows a removal petition that was filed Monday in the Superior Court by Democratic State Rep Carla Cunningham and 4 former sheriff's office employees. The filing accuses this 2-term sheriff of running a mafia-style intimidation, bribery ring and engaging in willful misconduct. The petition outlines explosive allegations regarding Sheriff McFadden's conduct over House Bill 10. This is a controversial state law mandating cooperation between local sheriffs and U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement. So it's very interesting that a Democrat state representative is bringing this petition along with 4 former sheriff's office employees. So Democrat State Rep Cunningham, who is a fellow Democrat, provided this critical vote to override the governor's veto of the bill and alleges McFadden threatened her safety to influence her vote. According to that petition, McFadden told Cunningham that if she continued to support the bill, the people of Mecklenburg County would come after her. Now, the filing also claims that McFadden said, I don't want to see you get hurt. You live in my county. My goodness, that is such an overt message. Yeah, it'd be a shame if something terrible happened to you, like your house caught on fire or your car brakes didn't work. Or what if you just stepped outside on the porch in the morning to get your newspaper and somebody shot you in the face? She stated that the intimidation made her fear for her physical safety and question whether or not she would receive law enforcement protection. Now, Cunningham described the interaction as akin to a mafia boss demanding money by saying, nice little store you got there. It'd be a shame if something happened to it. On Monday, District Attorney Merriweather confirmed he has asked the SBI's Professional Standards Unit to investigate the claims before his office decides whether to proceed with the removal petition. Now, the DA's letter to the SBI specifically requests an investigation into, number 1, extortion and robbery, number 2, economic threats made to influence legislation, number 3, Hatch Act violations regarding improper political activity. Love to see that get prosecuted because a lot of people bandy that about, but nothing ever happens. State campaign finance violations. No sheriff should ever suggest that a legislator's safety depends on how she votes, Cunningham said in a statement. I was afraid, and the intimidation affected me. Now, beyond the legislative threats, the petition, joined by former Chief Deputy Kevin Canty and other ex-staffers, paints a picture of a chaotic and hostile administration. Additional accusations include misuse of public funds. There are allegations that Sheriff McFadden would use office credit cards for travel upgrades and directed deputies to ferry guests to bars and strip clubs using official vehicles. Why is it that as soon as a Democrat gets into power, the first thing they start doing is buying first-class airfare and using like their their credit cards to like get 5-star meals and then buy jewelry, maybe get a nice Airbnb with their mistress. Retaliation and favoritism is also on the menu. Former employees claim Sheriff McFadden fostered a team sheriff culture, launching internal affairs investigations against perceived enemies while protecting loyalists. One allegation suggests a detention officer was promoted because she acted as a de facto informant for the sheriff. Jail safety is also a concern. The petition cites dangerous understaffing at the Mecklenburg County Detention Center, alleging staff levels dropped from 1,300 to roughly 770 under McFadden's tenure. That's a drop of like 50%, y'all. Former Sergeant Marcia Crenshaw Hill alleges relaxed policies for inmates contributed to an environment where she was stabbed in the neck by an inmate in 2020. Now, of course, Sheriff McFadden has not publicly addressed these specific allegations, but in a brief response to media inquiries, a sheriff's office spokesperson stated, "The sheriff is aware of the removal petition. However, we are not releasing a statement at this time." Now, this development comes as McFadden faces a challenging Democratic primary in March and is scheduled to testify later this month before a state legislative oversight committee regarding jail management and safety failures. I look forward to catching up with Sheriff McFadden to see exactly what he's got to say about that. Let's take a look at a local news report.
Well, tonight, Mecklenburg County Sheriff Gary McFadden is facing a federal lawsuit. A former high-ranking employee is alleging retaliation and discrimination after she says she refused to alter official documents.
WCNC Charlotte's Miles Harris joining us live tonight with details on that lawsuit. And Miles, what were some of these issues that she noticed?
Yeah, Nick and Jane, well, in that lawsuit, Dr. Angela Rigsby claims that there was a pay disparity between a black female manager compared to other white employees in the same or similar role. And when she mentioned those concerns, that's when she was let go from her position.
I think they need to understand the magnitude of what really goes on behind the doors of the sheriff's office.
Dr. Riggs.
All right, so he's also getting sued, apparently. But, you know, I have to say, just because people are getting paid different amounts compared to each other doesn't automatically mean racism. We don't know, in this instance, like how long the black employee was on the payroll for. Perhaps there was an issue about seniority or years actually working in the office. All of that will come out. I'm less concerned about that because it was a black sheriff hiring employees there. So I would say that racism is probably less of a concern in this instance. I am, however, worried about issues of corruption. All right. Now, you know what, you guys, I also forgot to say thank you. We finally got my Christmas cards from the mailbox, and I need to say thank you. So I'm not going to show the address on screen, but thank you very much to Pkwy. Appreciate you, homie, man. That was very generous of you, and your letter was awesome. Also, thank you very much to, what was the name on here? The name is difficult for me to read. Mike and Carol. Mike and Carol sent me these gold bucks that I've never seen. These are not like the same as like the legal currency gold bucks, but here we have 1/10 of an ounce of gold, and this one is 100 milligrams of 24 karat gold. Are those the same? Did I just say the exact same thing two different ways? I may have. I didn't do the math on that one, but thank you so much, you guys. I really appreciate that. Also, I got a Christmas card and a letter from the Tucker family. Thank you so much. I love you guys. I hope you guys are doing good. Really appreciate you always sending letters to me. That's so nice. Let me see. What else? We also got a card from Frequency Apps. They sent me a package just before the holiday, which is a product to remove microplastics from your blood. And I still have to test it out. And then I'm going to tell you guys how it worked for me. And then if it all works out correctly in the way that I think it will, then I'll tell you guys how you can get them. And then also, Jerry and Connie also sent me a lovely Christmas gift and a little letter. Every single time, every holiday season, they send me a little letter telling how their family is and what has happened to them in the course of that year. I would like for you guys to please pray for Jerry specifically. I really appreciate this, you guys. Thank you very much always. Every time somebody sends me a card or letter for the holiday or for whatever it might be, and they tell me what's going on in their lives, I really do appreciate it. All right, you guys. Moving on to our next story. First of all, Surter says that congressman is an example of people with shit for brains, usually suffering from diarrhea of the mouth. I'll be on board with that 100%. All right, now. President Trump recently, as you are aware, has made a couple of key statements about acquiring Greenland for the military use by the United States of America. A lot of people have said, why would we want Greenland? I mean, what is the point of Greenland? Greenland is actually a very key strategic piece of land. And it's obviously closer to the United States than it is to like Russia and China. But let's just say, in the event of like an ICBM attack, anything that would be coming towards our country would have to pass directly over Greenland. So in terms of like strategic interception of any weapons of war, if the United States was in control of Greenland, it would mean that the United States, as a 48 contiguous states, and even, Alaska and Hawaii, they would be in a much safer position. So President Trump has openly talked about why we want Greenland, what we need Greenland for. And he also said that the military option is on the table. Now, of course, he said this right after the United States went in and picked up Nicolas Maduro from Venezuela. So although it may have been a sort of quaint Trumpism prior to last weekend's events, now it is a lot more serious of a threat, you might say. So President Trump spoke on Monday, and he said, "I will say this about Greenland: we need Greenland from the standpoint of national security." Oh, and Lewis also sent me my monthly $10 donation. Thank you, Lewis. I appreciate you, buddy. We need Greenland for national security. It's so strategic, as I just explained. Right now, Greenland is covered with Russian and Chinese ships all over the place. Denmark is not going to be able to do it. I can tell you that. They thought this was a great move. It's true. They thought that was a great move. Noting that when Greenland said that they needed additional security, he said that, you know what they did? Denmark sent them some more dog sleds, which is obviously pretty funny. Dog sleds are not going to do much. So the idea that President Trump might actually go in there and take Greenland, it's actually kind of real now. The political leadership in Greenland also made a public comment, and they said, we're trying to open diplomatic channels directly to the United States right now because we want to make sure that Greenland is, not caught in the middle of this stuff. Right now, with Denmark technically owning and controlling Greenland, Greenland has to go to Denmark. Denmark then goes to the United States. Greenland is obviously much closer to the United States than Denmark is, and they figure, hey, why don't we just have an open dialogue directly with the United States of America? Now, of course, both the United States and Denmark are part of NATO. And the political leaders in Denmark are now really freaked out after the Delta Force operators went and got Nicolas Maduro, and they're saying, if the United States takes Greenland from us, NATO is essentially dead. You know what I say, guys? Go for it. NATO is dead as a doornail as it exists already. It wouldn't have existed all these years if the United States of America wasn't paying for everybody else's share, and we weren't giving our weapons and our equipment, and we weren't running things over there. NATO would simply not exist any longer. And NATO, at this point, is more of a liability than anything else because all it does is get Russia in a tizzy. So Denmark's political establishment is very, very concerned after these comments from President Trump. Their prime minister is a woman by the name of Mette Frederiksen. She's a social democrat, and she responded with a fair amount of rhetoric, warning that NATO itself would collapse if the United States were ever to move territorially against this Arctic region. Now, of course, the reason would be that the United States and Denmark, through their shared membership in NATO, they are supposed to be collaborating on stuff. But you can see Denmark's responses in the past to President Trump's repeated salvos to bring Greenland into the fold of United States territories. It's pretty much been rebuked, and they have said that Greenland's not for sale. We don't want to give you Greenland. Stop asking for Greenland. Now, in past years, before we went in there and took Nicolas Maduro, these comments were kind of just laughed off. And now that we've shown that, hey, you know what, we are willing to support our own national security agenda, even if it means momentarily violating the sovereignty of another nation if what they're doing is against our own best interests. Well, guess what? That's simply the way it has to be. Personally, I'm totally okay with this. All right. Generally speaking, I am not like an interventionist. I don't think the United States should be involved in, world policing, going to other nations around the world and taking care of their problems. We've done a lot of that over the years throughout my lifetime, and it generally does not end that well. It usually ends with the United States destroying a nation, taking a whole bunch of money, dumping it in the middle of a hole, and then nobody is better off at the end of the day. But Greenland is a different proposition. We could help develop Greenland. And of course, it would be wonderful not only for us, but for the people of Greenland as well. You might remember several months back, President Trump and a number of people, I think it was Donald Trump Jr. and even Charlie Kirk and Nick Shirley, he went there and a lot of people were wearing MAGA hats. They were saying, please, President Trump, take Greenland and make us American. They thought it was so awesome. And, just to show you on a map, Greenland's huge, y'all. It is big. There's not a lot of land that you could live on and do things comfortably because it's mostly Arctic, lots of ice, lots of snow. But there are several places that it would make a lot of sense. And certainly the United States could set up some military bases and, we could control the Northern Passage as well. So this is not a hypothetical. I think it's only a matter of time. The United States will control Greenland. The deal has to be made. And y'all know President Trump's ability to make deals. His he gets off on making deals. He said it himself. He's like, some people like alcohol. Some people like drugs. I like making deals. That's the thing that does it for me, making deals. And the United States certainly has the resources. And obviously we have the wherewithal because we just did 3 minutes in and out of Venezuela the other night. And, now the whole world is willing to take a look. Isle of White Privilege says Trump to make Denmark an offer they can't refuse. Yes, the Don coming with an offer you can't refuse. I love it. All right. Now, Stephen Miller, obviously one of President Trump's closest confidants and personal advisors. He also wanted to make sure that Denmark is fully aware that this is going to happen. The military action of the United States may just happen. He was actually speaking with everyone's favorite, hated CNN fake news fake news propagandist, Jake Tapper. Take a listen. Oh, wait. So,
last question, Stephen.
Hang on. I need to make sure that's up. All right.
Over the future of Greenland.
One last question, Stephen.
Doesn't make any sense.
One last question. The president was very quick to say that the recipient of the Nobel Peace Prize, opposition leader Machado in Venezuela, doesn't have the support in Venezuela to become the next president or the interim leader. And I wonder where he got that from, given that her cutout, guns.
Jake Tapeworm. I love that. I've never heard that before. I'm going to use that from now on. Jake Tapeworm. Oh, my God. Laughing hurts so much. Okay.
Gonzalez won the election last year, 2 years ago, overwhelmingly, 70% of the vote or something.
Wait a second. Alias, aren't you from Denmark? Hold on. Are you guys... Currently, Greenland is costing Denmark $556 million per year in subsidies that could be used on other things. Yes, you are from Denmark. Tell us, what do the people, Jake Tap out, I like that too. What do the other people of Denmark think about the United States taking Greenland? I mean, obviously, there's a lot that could be done there. There's a lot could be exploited and for in a positive way. I don't mean like in a negative connotation. And it seems like Denmark has never really done anything with it other than just to sort of lord over it. And obviously, you're pumping $500 some odd million in subsidies there every year. If the people of Greenland became, most Danes are clueless and parrot the media, that's unfortunate. Well, I'm glad we've got you in the chat, Alias, always based.
Like that. Why does the president think that Machado should not be the next leader? Why does he think she's weak?
First of all of Venezuela experts agree. All Venezuela experts agree that it would be absurd and preposterous for us to suddenly fly her into the country and to put her in charge. And the military would follow her, and the security forces would follow her.
Not gonna happen.
This is not a serious It's not even a serious question.
So should there be an election?
Let me, if you give me the floor for 30 seconds, let me tell you what we are doing here, Jake. The United States, this is sort of
This is good. He proceeds to talk for the next 3 minutes, and I love it.
foundational. The United States is using its military to secure our interests unapologetically in our hemisphere. We're a superpower, and under President Trump, we are going to conduct ourselves as a superpower. It is absurd that we would allow a nation in our own backyard to become the supplier of resources to our adversaries, but not to us, to hoard weapons from our adversaries, to be able to be positioned as an asset against the United States rather than on behalf of the United States.
Sovereign countries shouldn't be able to do what they want to do?
The Monroe Doctrine and the Trump Doctrine is all.
The Donroe Doctrine. We always gotta use that. I want to hear Stephen Miller say the Donroe Doctrine. All right. Thank you to Emerald Dragon, who says, if the Earth is not flat, then why would missile strikes from Asia have to come over Greenland before reaching the U.S.? I'll let you all mull over that one. It's an excellent point. I don't even want to go there because my brain gets twisted in knots. Wounds are us. Jake Crapper. I love that one, too.
All about securing the national interests of America. For years, we sent our soldiers to die in deserts in the Middle East to try to build them parliaments, to try to build them democracies, to try to give them more oil, to try to give them more resources. The future of the free world, Jake, depends on America being able to assert ourselves and our interests without apology. This whole...
Jake Tapper, look at his face. My goodness. He's such a smug son of a bitch. Stephen Miller's absolutely correct. The future of the free world depends on the success of the United States. It's often been said, as so goes the United States, so goes the rest of the world. But that has never been more true than it is right now. Donald Trump and the Donroe Doctrine is proving that on a daily basis.
Period that happened after World War II, where the West began apologizing and groveling and begging
I don't even
and
know,
engaging these
honestly,
vast
what you're talking
reparation
about right
schemes.
now.
It's a... What I'm talking.
If you would just shut up, Jake, if you would just shut up and open your ears and you would listen to Stephen Miller, he will tell you exactly what he's talking about. All it takes is just listening. Stephen Miller is brilliant. I love this man.
Talking about, Jake, is the idea, and by the way, you do, I know you love doing that smarmy thing, Jake, and I was hoping to do better than that this time.
I asked you about if there should be an election.
Exactly.
I asked you if there would be an election in Venezuela. That's what I asked. I said, why was the president so quick to dismiss Machado? You answered that question. And then I said,
the objective, Jake, is security and stability for the people of Venezuela. With our help and leadership, that country will become more prosperous than it has ever been in its whole history. Venezuelans
but the woman
will be richer
running Venezuela
and
right
safer
now is
and
part
more
of the Maduro
secure and
regime.
better off. There will be conversations, Jake, about all of these guideposts along the way. The reason why I was giving you that speech, which I know you didn't want to hear, is because you're approaching this from the wrong frame. This neoliberal frame that the United States' job is to go around the world and demanding immediate elections to be held everywhere, immediately, all the time, right away. To create these vacuums.
That's not what I think, but you invaded the country. We went into the country and we seized the leader of Venezuela.
Damn straight we did.
And I'm saying,
we're not going to let.
So is the U.S. going to have new elections?
Jake, is that we're not going to let Tim Pot communist dictators send rapists into our country, send drugs into our country, send weapons into our country.
Okay.
And we're not going to let a country fall into the hands of our adversaries. The future of Venezuela, working with America, is going to be so bright and so incredible and so positive, and we'll have a conversation about everything that you raised. But the priority right now, as the president has made clear, is a judicious, thoughtful, careful transition process to secure a great future for Venezuela and to secure a great future for America.
All right.
And let's just take a moment and just acknowledge, Jake, that what we've witnessed under President Trump's leadership this last week is one of the greatest foreign policy and military victories this country has ever had.
Stephen Miller, thank you so much.
So different. This is why I say that what happened in Venezuela is not a regime change, because what Jake Tapper is suggesting needs to happen, this immediate dive into new elections and just put a whole new slate of people in there who don't have the love of the people or the respect of the people, throw in this opposition leader in Machado, who is clearly the choice of the global deep state. that would undoubtedly lead to major security issues in Venezuela. And what President Trump and the administration are trying to do is the exact opposite of that. That's why they didn't replace everybody. They're trying to maintain this level of homeostasis, so to speak. There will be elections. I think undoubtedly we're going to find out after the investigation of election equipment and software and such that it will be impossible to have elections in Venezuela under the former regime that was in place. And PJ, just to be clear, my love of Stephen Miller is perfectly, it is non-romantic. It is merely a level of respect and admiration for the way that the man speaks. Has nothing to do with anything else. It's much the same as I love you, my friend, because you have the ability to form cogent and cohesive arguments in relation to the things that you are passionate about, just in the exact same way. Wounds are us, Jake Crapper. I don't know if I read that one, but thank you so much. All right, now, real quick, before we continue, I have a brief message from our friends over here on Rumble, and it actually ties in directly with this channel. Now, I told you guys the other day about the Rumble wallet. Well, if you are actually in possession of that Rumble wallet, you can now donate Bitcoin to the channel. You guys have probably seen what's happened to me over the years and what has happened to other people who speak out politically or against the grain. Banks can cancel your accounts. They can freeze your credit cards. They can decide what you're allowed to buy, what you're allowed to say, who you're allowed to support. I was just looking through some old transactions earlier today and searched in my email, and someone back in 2021, when I had a second PayPal account, somebody had donated to me, and she said that they were suspending her PayPal account because she had donated to me, and then they went ahead and suspended my PayPal account. Big banks and financial institutions have total control over your money, and they want to use it. This is why financial independence matters more now than it has at any time in the past. So, introducing Rumble Wallet. It's a wallet built for real freedom. With Rumble Wallet, you control your money. No banks control it, no governments, no tech companies. You can buy digital assets like Tether, Tether Gold, and Bitcoin all in one secure place. There's no permission necessary, no middleman to take off the top, no cancel button. And when you want to support creators like myself that you actually believe in, you can use that Rumble Wallet app to directly tip content creators securely, instantly, and without interference. Now, from what I understand as well, when you donate Bitcoin to the channel through the Rumble Wallet, Rumble actually doesn't take any of it. This isn't a credit line that they can shut off. It is your wallet, and it's permanently yours to protect for the future, to protect for your family. And when the system fails, when institutions turn on their own people, financial sovereignty is the difference between security and vulnerability. Rumble Wallet isn't just about politics. It's about freedom, ownership, and protecting what's yours. So take control today. Download that Rumble Wallet now and step away from big banks for good. True ownership, true protection, and true financial freedom. You can use that QR code on screen with your phone, or just to go directly to wallet.rumble.com, or you can just search Rumble Wallet inside the App Store for whatever phone you use and then download it. And then if you feel so inclined, you can donate Bitcoin or other crypto to myself or other people. Thank you so much, you guys, for your time. Now, let us talk about the Somalian fraud, because there is a hell of a lot to discuss when it comes down to this. First of all, a Somalian man named Mohammed, go figure, took the podium in Maine recently to deliver a warning to Democrats. This is a prescient message because it comes into play in so many ways today. He said, if you keep talking about the fraud taking place, the entire voting community will abandon the Democrats. He actually says this: deport them all. Take a listen.
My name is Mohammed. I'm speaking today on behalf of the Somali community in Lewiston. Some of you sitting here today, we voted for you. We elected you to protect our community interests, not creating division or go after one elected member from our community. This narrative, if this narrative continues, our community will be forced to re-examine our relationship or political relationship, including our relationship with the Democratic Party and who will be voting in the future. This is not a threat. My name is Mohammed.
It sure sounds like a threat. It sounds like, hey, if you Democrats talk about fraud, then we are going to take our vote and go someplace else. So he's demanding that they stop investigating Somalian refugees, specifically Imam Osman, who was just sworn into the Lewiston, Maine City Council, even though he's currently under investigation for fraud and lying about his address to run for the seat. We actually saw the video from the location. I believe it was last week. He said that he lived in a building that was condemned. It was not a physical residence. It was like an old, burnt-out store. Currently, even though Mr. Osman is charged with stealing a firearm, providing a false address to run for the seat, lying about the address and the reasoning for why he included that address on his form to apply for the office, the address being given, being condemned, and having previously been raided for drugs, he now sits on the Lewiston School Board. He was just sworn in. So this tells you everything you need to know about fraud in places where Somalians make up the bulk of the community. You can see right here. Here is Mr. Osman being sworn in right there. One of these things is not like the other. He's this guy right here. The city of Lewiston officially swore him in as one of the 4 new members of the city council Monday night, even though he's facing all those charges that I just mentioned. Now, he is a Somali immigrant. He is a community leader, and he's now the newest Ward 5 councilor, despite the multiple felonies he's facing, including the stolen property. Now, this indictment accuses Osman of knowingly receiving, retaining, or disposing of firearms or explosive devices that he knew or had a reason to believe were stolen. How many of you in the audience are owners of Second Amendment implements, guns, like this beautiful pistol behind me or that AR-15 pistol behind that one? When you fill out your FBI or ATF paperwork, I mean, they ask you all these questions like, are you a citizen of the United States? Are you under indictment for anything? Do you intend to keep this weapon? Is this yours? Are you going to sell it? If I did any of those things, if I lied about that, they would have a predisposition to come to my home and arrest me. And I've been certainly highly aware of what I do and my ownership of these things in years past, because they were doing everything they could to go after patriots and put them in prison. But then you got this guy. He's a freaking immigrant from Somalia. He's a known criminal. He has done multiple things, and he is still now sitting in his second elected position, and nobody seems to be coming after him. But that is temporary because the FBI is currently investigating him for the things that he did. Now, his address that he listed was 210 Blake Street in Lewiston. He doesn't live there, and we know he doesn't live there because that location has been condemned since October of 2024. There was a drug raid. The use of chemical agents were used inside the building. Humans cannot safely live in that location. It is fully uninhabitable. And even knowing this fact, the Lewiston School Committee declined to investigate the residency claims against him. And in response of the mounting public scrutiny, the Lewiston City Council voted 6-1 on yesterday, to hire an independent investigator to review Osman's qualifications and whether or not he lawfully meets residence requirements for the seat that he actually holds. Spoiler alert, he doesn't. Now, Gavin Newsom probably is not having a very good week for a number of different reasons. But first of all, a week or so ago, I told you about the lawsuit against the state of California because of the California state decision to revoke all of those non-domiciled CDLs from people who were not legally allowed to hold them because they were obviously supposed to have been removed previously, or their date of removal or the ending of their time here in the United States comes before the actual expiration of their driver's licenses. Well, even though Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy told Gavin Newsom and the state of California that they're going to take all of their money, they're not going to get any more cash from the federal government unless they canceled those driver's licenses, Gavin Newsom has now made the decision to extend those trucker licenses, even though it is a violation of federal law. So he and he alone has driven the state of California into the ground. Billions of dollars squandered. He is now defying federal immigration law. He hates President Trump and he hates the United States of America. He is the very foundation of what the left stands for in the 21st century. And this move has now provoked fierce pushback from the Trump administration. The heart of the matter surrounds the 17,000 non-domiciled commercial driver's licenses that were issued to people who never should have had them in the first place. We've had quite a few people killed on American roads recently. Many of the drivers of those rigs coming from the state of California, or at least receiving their driver's licenses from California. So they have decided not to cancel those driver's licenses, and that's probably going to put a lot more people in danger. Undoubtedly, the United States government is now no longer going to extend any sort of courtesy to California. And we also have word from Kristi Noem that there are additional things that will be taking place very shortly with regard to the Department of Homeland Security. Now, we also have a number of individuals all around the country who have been doing their own private investigations into trucking companies, daycare centers, home health companies, places where you have a lot of immigrants that have set up and started these businesses. Now, specifically in the state of California right here, we have a place called Zermal Fahima Family Childcare. And this is a report from Social Services on a site visit that was done by the state of California. And what you can see on both of these site visit cases right here, first you've got one from July 18th of 2024, and then another one about a year later, August 20th of 2025. When they visited the Fahima Family Childcare, there were 0 kids present out of the 8 that were listed as enrolled. That was back in July of last year. And then this time in 2025, when they showed up, the only kids who were present were the kids that were birthed by the owners of this childcare facility. And yet nothing was done. No licenses were revoked. No money stopped flowing. They just continued on business as usual. And why wouldn't they? I mean, you've got this money spigot that is flowing directly into your bank account. Why would you stop unless somebody tells you that you can't keep doing what you're doing? Now, it was announced this week that thousands of DHS agents have surged into Minneapolis. And here, Kristi Noem talks about what they have accomplished in that short time since these 2,000 DHS employees were able to get on the ground. Also, it was announced that ICE employment levels have increased by 120%. I believe there was 10,000 employees and something like 10,200 employees were recently hired and put out onto the streets to help with the efforts of getting these criminals and illegal aliens out of America.
They do. The people that are on the streets, we surged the last 48 hours. We've arrested hundreds and hundreds of dangerous criminals off the streets.
Oh, my child. Okay. Cool. I will look. I haven't looked at my email for the last couple of days, but I know you, and I will definitely be reaching out to her. If you could do me a favor and have her email me so that I can make contact with her first and then let her know what number I'm going to be calling her from, that would be awesome.
Streets in Minnesota and people that are a part of this fraud. They do. The people that are on the streets, we surged the last 48 hours. We've arrested hundreds and hundreds of dangerous criminals off the streets in Minnesota and people that are a part of this fraud scheme.
Is it just me or do her eyebrows look much stronger than normal? I don't know what's going on there. Maybe it's just the hat and the shade.
So this morning, I left D.C. at like 2 a.m., got to Minnesota in time. We arrested a murderer, someone who was extorting money in other countries, and also sexual assault perpetuators, individuals who were attacking children. So we've gotten them off of the streets, and we did it with no help from Governor Walz, no help from the Democrats, those who are trying to cover it up. We've ignored them and done the work that President Trump has given us to do. And thank God we have a president that wants to make America safe again for every single citizen, regardless of where they live.
Now, I also want to say, Kristi Noem always looks so well put together. And I'm not saying that her eyebrows look stronger than normal as like a put down. It's just, it was shocking to me for a moment there. She says at one point during this interview that she got on the plane to go to Minneapolis at 2 a.m. This was recorded late last night. So like Kristi Noem had been going for, I don't know, nearly 24 hours at this point. I don't know what she's drinking. I don't know what she's taking, but she is doing something right because she obviously has got the energy of a woman far younger than she actually is. So just wanted to put it out there that we have thousands of agents on the streets in Minneapolis. And I also saw a figure that in the first 24 hours, they were able to arrest over 1,000 illegal aliens. Now, prior to that surge, I wanted to talk about this earlier in the week, but I just didn't get a chance to. Knowing that Health and Human Services and DHS and all of these federal agencies were going to be showing up in Minneapolis, somebody who, this could be a joke, but I tend to believe that it's not. I think that this is legit. Someone posted an ad on Craigslist in Minneapolis from a daycare saying that they were looking to hire up to 20 child actors. Now, this could very easily just be a troll. This is honestly the kind of thing that I might have done. But what they did is they posted this ad and it said from Help Us Daycare. They actually advertises a desire to hire child actors for a 3-day contract in Ventura Village. The listing claims the daycare lost state funding due to white supremacy and asserts they need to hire 20 child actors for a few days to show up to the fake daycare because the entire client base has already found new daycare services. So when the state investigators arrive, the listings explain, kids need to be on site. The listing seems to be too insane to be sincere. On the other hand, when you consider the craziness uncovered in the Minnesota Somali daycare fraud investigation, perhaps this entry warrants a little government scrutiny. I think it obviously does. The Craigslist goes on to say, due to this insane poor decision clear in white supremacy, we had to close our doors immediately. We must prove we are a function daycare to get the funding back. The issue is the entire client base has already found new daycare services, and we need to find new client base quickly. The English is not correct. There are a number of fundamental errors in the language. It says, to help hurry the state vetting processes, we are looking to hire 20 child actors for 3 days while state is present on site. We pay up to $1,500 actor per day. If you are interested, please send your child's age and a note of what makes your child a special actor. Submit phone number as well, and we will be doing quick phone interviews as part of hire process. Oh, God, my back. Oh, God. Of course, nobody has come forward to say that it's a joke, and I don't know if anybody got a response. But given everything that's been going on in Minneapolis, this could be real. Like, this could 100% be real. We will never know. We are certainly living in a clown world at this point. All right, now, Tim Walz has also been a very, very twitchy since he dropped out of the governor's race, and all of this stuff has begun. Agents rolling into town, threats being made by the administration. Kristi Noem also has some harsh words for Tim Walz. So he was upset about ICE, quote, wasting taxpayer dollars because they were coming into Minneapolis to round up these illegal aliens. So he makes this statement, and Kristi Noem fires back. So the DHS is now conducting these door-to-door audits. What they're doing is going to Somali-linked daycare centers and social service operations, basically every type of business that has been like factually shown to be defrauding the federal government. They are going around, walking into all these places. If it looks like there's something bad happening or they have somebody working there who is a known criminal, they're going to arrest them. And they are also targeting people with criminal records, people who may be hiring illegally, also places that could be linked to human trafficking. So one particular show of force that was going viral on TikTok and other places shows ICE agents walking into a library arresting illegal aliens. This was right at the end of December. Now, when Tim Walz saw this video for the first time, he posted on X, "Ridiculous. Nobody is fooled into thinking this buffoonery is a reasonable use of tax dollars. It should not take 50 ICE agents to arrest one guy in a library." Well, the only thing is that you guys ever tried to grab one of these people? They are slippery, and they are doing everything in their power to not be arrested. It is very, very dangerous to do this type of work. What's up, baby? Oh, the Tiger Balm came. Let me see it. It's been a long time since I've seen Tiger Balm. The packaging for this stuff has always fascinated me. I don't know if it's gonna, if that will. No, for whatever reason, my camera can't zoom in on it. But yes, guys, I will use the Tiger Balm and I'll report back to you. Oh, wow. This is a very different formulation than it was when I was younger. If I remember correctly, Tiger Balm used to be white. Now it's orange? Huh. Well, I don't know. I don't know if that's a good sign or a bad sign. Tiger Balm red. Oh, you know what? This might be a different, this might be like a knockoff Tiger Balm brand. That's so funny. Either way, I mean, the ingredients that are in Tiger Balm are going to be in the other things that I have, but I know people are very partial. All right, but so these guys show up. ICE shows up. They try to arrest one person. All of a sudden, they have a group of 10 crazed liberals. Half of them are wearing burqas and niqabs. The others are just screeching white harpies. And the guy they're trying to arrest is literally like waving his arms around. He's super skinny, so he can just slip his wrists out of those cuffs. And it's a dangerous thing. And you never know if they have weapons. And it doesn't sound like there's any audio here. Now, maybe they got 50 ICE agents because this guy is super dangerous. I mean, who knows? But anyways, this made Tim Walz very upset. I guess his daughter is out there still screeching too. But so here they are. And let's see. There were actually 14 ICE agents. It wasn't 50, but either way. So Kristi Noem responds on X and she says, "Really? You're worried about taxpayer dollars? There's been $9 billion stolen from taxpayers in Minnesota since you became governor." She said, "You won't let us into Minnesota jails. There's rampant assault against our law enforcement thanks to vilification from politicians like you. So yes, there is strength in law enforcement numbers to remove these violent criminals from the communities you refuse to protect." I mean, she is not wrong. Now, here is some of that footage from the door-to-door operations. I got to say, I love what's happening. Right now, Kristi Noem arrived at the federal building in Minneapolis. I wish I could own one of these guys right here. I don't know what these are called. But like, how cool would that be? Especially if like the apocalypse hits, you could turn that into a camper with like a turret on top. That'd be sweet. All right, Kristi Noem and the boys arriving in town. So then they hit the ground running. And this is a report from not the local Fox, just from Fox, talking about the actions. And you can see that these agents are not playing around. They're doing it. They're going hard.
They say they see these daycare centers, adult daycare centers, autism centers, home health care centers all over the place.
Don't forget the trucking companies. They're often also in each of those locations.
So that's why DHS has to be here, Dana, to knock on these doors and say, you've received this much money. What'd you do with it? So we'll keep an eye on it.
Okay, glad you're there. Thank you.
So, yes, how many of you think that when any of these federal agencies show up at any of these businesses, they're going to have records to back up why they have charged the federal government this much money? They will not. And it means that probably a fair number of them are going to result in arrests on the spot. There is likely to be a lot of them who simply don't answer the doors at all. They may have decided to stay home, considering the attention.
Of the largest immigration operation ever taking place right now. It's a great effort by ICE. Both of our components, enforcement removal operations and Homeland Security investigations, they're on the ground. HSI agents, have you seen in the media, have been going door to door to a lot of these suspected, companies that are not only hiring illegal aliens that shouldn't even be in the country, but also, being involved in potential human smuggling, human trafficking cases, but also looking at these.
And that's not just like out of nowhere. I think last week I told you guys about a multi-state Somali human trafficking operation. Got more information on that, whole bunch of pictures of these people that are involved. But we know that many of these places are actually hiring illegal aliens, and of course they're just paying them under the table. Or maybe if it's like a Muslim man that owns the place, he could just grab himself another wife and have her posted up at the daycare. Doesn't have to pay her a dang thing, but you get all that cash from her. And if you walk into one of these businesses, they've got illegal aliens that are working on the spot. That's immediate arrest now with these new policies of not only the business owner, but also the alien themselves.
Fraud cases as well. But one thing we should really note.
My child, you cannot change your Rumble name, your display name. The only thing you can do is create a new Rumble account.
Too is the fact that states like Minnesota that have a strong sanctuary city policy and sanctuary protections do attract other illegal aliens to come there to take advantage of welfare, public assistance, SNAP benefits. And that's just a magnet that brings that criminal element that can hide in plain sight. And that's what we're finding up in Minnesota. Very proud to say the Secretary of Homeland Security, Kristi Noem, she was up there today. She ran an awesome, successful operation, got a suspected murderer and a wanted rapist.
So many people who deserve to get arrested. Let me say thank you to Revelin, who says Tiger Balm is real, but it stains. Now, I remember the white one leaving like oil marks and stuff if you got it on fabric, but I'm wondering if the red is going to leave stains as well. There were always two versions. The Ultra is white, the regular is red. Oh, man, I guess I only ever use the Ultra. Ultra doesn't stain. Sleep with it on. Cover it with the cloth if you can. Okay, will do. Renee says, oh, my God, my ribs hurt. But thank you for that. That is so fun. Let me say thank you very much over here on Pilled to Sean Joe for the can, 123 SKG for the can, Sean Joe for the cookie, Mighty Patriot for the shades, Sean Joe for the cookie, Red Gun 51 for the 117 gold pills, Sean Joe for another cookie, Red Gun 51 for a can, One Thunder for the can, Sean Joe for the cookie, Kelbell 5 for the cookie, and no thanks, Joe, my brother from another mother. He says, thanks, Lisa and Zach, and happy hump day to you. As always, we do appreciate your stellar reporting. God bless and be safe. Thank you so much, my friend. I appreciate it. All right, and if you guys are just joining the show, perhaps you might have missed my message earlier in the show, but if you didn't, let me just say it again. If you deal with conventional banks, they can freeze your accounts, they can shut off your credit cards, they can lock you out of your own money overnight. Banks do not protect you. In fact, they control you. And that's why real financial freedom starts with ownership. So we are pleased to announce the Rumble Wallet. It's a wallet built for people who refuse to give up control. With Rumble Wallet, you don't just buy digital currency like Bitcoin and Tether. You can own Tether Gold, real gold, on the blockchain. Through Tether Gold, you get direct ownership of physical gold bars, each one fully allocated, verifiable by serial number, purity, and weight. This isn't paper gold. This isn't an IOU. This is real gold without bank vaults, storage fees, or gatekeepers. You can buy, sell, or move it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, even when traditional gold markets are closed. And if you want, Tether Gold can be redeemed for physical gold. That is power. And when you support creators on Rumble, you can tip them directly using that Rumble wallet, peer-to-peer, secure, and outside the banking system. No permissions, no middlemen, no cancel button. That wallet is yours forever. You can use that QR code that you see on screen. Go to wallet.rumble.com. And once you get it, if you want to donate some crypto, some Tether Gold, or whatever it might be, you just click that button on the homepage for my channel at rumble.com/redpill78. Thank you very much once again to Rumble and Rumble Wallet. Appreciate y'all. And let me jump back in here because things, as I said earlier, are hot in Minneapolis. Now, another aspect of this surge is that not only do these officers got to show up in Minneapolis, but they got to have a place to stay. And one of the places that they tried to make an appointment to book rooms was at a local Hilton. Now, the only problem is that after DHS and ICE started checking in, there was at least one of them who got an email stating that I guess the Hilton had done some background on these government emails that were being used to book these rooms, and they started canceling their reservations. This was the Hampton Inn Lakeville property, and DHS and ICE agents started abruptly finding that the rooms they had rented were canceled and their reservations were no longer good, which meant that they had no place to stay when they were going to be rounding up these dangerous illegal aliens. So the email that was sent out said, after further investigation online, we have found information about immigration work connected to your name, and we will be canceling your reservation. Another email came from the hotel warning patrons that if you are DHS or immigration, please let us know, as we will have to cancel your reservation. Now, DHS had shared this online. They were not too happy about it, and they actually very quickly got a response from the corporate team at Hilton. And they said, well, we're going to go ahead and investigate. So they then later released a statement saying they had actually been in touch with the ownership of that hotel. It was a company called Everpeak. It was owned by some migrants who came from India, if I'm not mistaken. They apologized and they assured Hilton Corporate that the situation had been rectified, as if perhaps the people working the front desk were the ones to blame, not the owners of the hotel. So DHS agents were supposedly then allowed to return to the establishment. This is the announcement from Everpeak where they apologize. But then Nick Sorter went to the hotel on Monday night, and he found out that that actually never happened. He went to the front desk, and he asked the front desk to book some rooms for DHS agents, and he already knew that there were 10 rooms available at the hotel. But the front desk then told Nick Sorter that the anti-immigration law enforcement order actually remained in effect, which was totally different from what the management of the hotel said publicly and what they told Hilton. And he also found out that they were not going to honor what Hilton Corporate had said. So he put out this new finding in a video on X, and the Hilton owners at the corporate level responded and said the independent hotel owner had assured us that they had fixed the problem, and they published a message confirming this. But a recent video clearly raises concerns that they are not meeting our standards and values. As such, F around, find out. We are taking immediate action to remove this hotel from our systems. Hilton is and has always been and remains a welcoming place for all. So this hotel has lost their Hilton affiliation, which of course means that there's a whole bunch of people who are not going to want to stay at this hotel, because people who are loyal to hotel brands, they're going to look for a Hilton hotel. And if they find out that this hotel no longer has that Hilton franchisee affiliation, they're going to think, well, geez, I don't want to stay there. And there's probably a reason why Hilton took that name away. And when you go to the Hilton reservation website, you find that, in fact, they have taken the franchisee away from the Hampton Inn by Hilton in Lakeville, Minnesota. So these people are now likely going to find themselves in a very difficult situation financially. Pretty awesome. And of course, there are other hotels that people can choose to stay at. Now, in addition to all of the DHS agents that will be necessary to round up these illegal immigrants and criminals, you need a couple of additional things. You're also going to need space to hold them. Well, that's taken care of. They brought their own planes and they started shipping these Somalians and illegal alien criminals from Minneapolis to every other open facility around the country where there isn't major operations going on, where there is plenty of vacancies. All right, problem solved. The next thing that they're going to need is obviously prosecutors from the Department of Justice. Well, wouldn't you know it, AG Pam Bondi has an answer for us on that as well. The Department of Justice is currently dispatching a team of prosecutors to Minnesota to reinforce the already busy U.S. Attorney's Office there, and put the perpetrators of this widespread fraud behind us. We will deliver severe consequences in Minnesota and stand ready to deploy to any other state where similar fraud schemes are robbing American taxpayers, which means that we're going to get quick trials for all of these people. This is not going to be a situation where we're waiting years to see if somebody is going to be brought to justice or not. The government is hearing us on this one, and they are not wanting to lollygag around. Now, we also have an update in the Feeding Our Future case. You'll probably remember Amy Bach. She was the 44-year-old white Minneapolis resident who was the sort of brain trust behind the Feeding Our Future scam. She just lost a major decision in federal court, and she is now being forced to hand over much of the ill-gotten gains she received as part of that Feeding Our Future scam. Those things that she is being forced to hand over include a 2013 Porsche Panamera. That is such a cool car. They lose resale value very quickly, though, so it only makes sense to buy a used one really, really cheap. They're also probably really expensive to maintain, but good Lord, I would love to drive one of those. Also, she has to give away all of her diamonds and her jewelry, her Louis Vuitton bags. She's also got a pile of laptops and iPads and all of the other electronics that she purchased with this, plus about $3.7 million she had squirreled away in her bank account. So all told, Amy Bach is being forced to forfeit $5.2 million in value as part of her participation in the Feeding Our Future scam. Now, she was convicted in March of last year on wire fraud, bribery, and conspiracy in what is currently the largest COVID-era scam. I tend to believe it's going to get even bigger, but she was the one driving the fraud behind the scenes, and all of those Somalians were working for her. Prosecutors have said that it is the largest pandemic fraud in U.S. history. Her nonprofit, which she also used to sue the government of Minnesota because she had previously gotten in trouble for not really running a nonprofit in the way that she was supposed to. She took advantage of everything that was happening during the pandemic. Now, you might ask yourself, how did Amy Bach get all of these connections in the Somali community? Well, wouldn't you know it, she had a Somali boyfriend right here. This guy that she was shacking up with, and I don't know what kind of car this is, but the doors open the wrong way, and they have this really fancy black and red leather interior. It looks like it might be a Rolls Royce or something like that, and he's also got all kinds of bling on. Look, he's got a diamond grill, he's got a big-ass diamond necklace, 2 big diamond and gold rings. This man is named Empress. What is his last name? Empress Watson. Empress Watson, her Somali boyfriend, together, they stole all of this money, and I don't know if he was actually convicted of anything, but here they are. She's kind of a big woman, isn't she? He looks just like a little guy. I feel like there's a joke there, but I'm not going to make it. Is this them getting married? This looks like they're perhaps at some type of chapel someplace. But here they are posing in a meet-cute photograph, probably for her Instagram. But I think that this might have been her introduction to the world of Somalia living in Minnesota. Anyways, now what comes next? Well, obviously, all of these individuals engaging in fraud in Minnesota is certainly concerning, but we must not forget about the state government of Minnesota, and largely Tim Walz, Keith Ellison, Ilhan Omar. We'll deal with the latter two in a little bit later on in the show. But for right now, we're going to focus on Tim Walz because Caroline Leavitt specifically mentioned him while speaking with Jesse Waters. And she says Tim Walz better watch out. President Trump and the Department of Justice believe that he is criminally liable. Now, with all of these agents coming in and the FBI, DHS, HHS, USDA, SBA, name and federal organization, and they are probably there, it's looking like Tim Walz's days are numbered, and Caroline Leavitt, of course, has specifically put him on blast. We need to get Tim Walz indicted. I think that it's going to happen sooner rather than later. President Trump mentioned the other day that Tim Walz may not be governor for the remainder of his term. An indictment would certainly put that term on ice.
Does it surprise you what's happening with Tim Walz?
Unfortunately, it doesn't. The scale of the fraud that the Trump administration, with the help of great independent journalists,
Lee Walden says that's a $300,000 Mercedes-Benz. Is it? Jeez, oh, Pete.
like Nick Shirley is uncovering right now is surely shocking. But President Trump has been calling out Tim Walz for his incompetence and corrupt leadership for a very long time. And Trump was right about everything. This is another example of that, which is why Governor Walz is dropping out of the race for re-election today. This is a man who can no longer even win the support of the voters within his home state because his policies have failed them. And now the great people of Minnesota, a state that was once known as the land of 10,000 lakes, has been turned into the land of 10,000 Somali schemes because of their governor. And don't forget, this is a guy who was at the top of the Democrat Party's ticket, the number 2. He was Kamala Harris's running mate just about a year ago until President Trump crushed them last November. And it was in large part because the president was calling out this fraud. And so this has been a day one priority for the Trump administration, Jesse. The Department of Justice has convicted and prosecuted nearly 100 defendants in Minnesota. And because of these new details and this new reporting that has come to light, this is a all hands on deck across the entire government effort. We are surging resources. You saw today the Department of Homeland Security announced we have nearly 2,000 agents from the Homeland Security Investigations Team. The FBI is on the ground, and we're freezing money. HHS cut off funding for child care centers and for daycares. USDA Secretary Rollins has been asking Governor Walz to see the recipients of SNAP in his state. So this is all hands on deck. Rest assured, it's a top priority for President Trump. And he believes that Governor Walz is criminally liable. And I think the Department of Justice is going to find out.
Well, they should, because
that's all I wanted to get through. He believes that Tim Walz is criminally liable. I think everybody believes that Tim Walz is criminally liable. Now, you'll remember David from Nick Shirley's investigation on the ground that sparked the federal response to this. Now, because David has been following this for such a long time, it only made sense for Nick and Dave to do another video after Tim Walz dropped out. It was funny. They titled it, "We forced Tim Walz out of office" or something like that. But either way, based upon David's investigation since literally the beginning, he estimates the fraud in Minnesota to be at somewhere between $80 and $100 billion. Now, this is very bad news for the state of Minnesota because, as we already know, the clawback is beginning. They are going to go after the state for all of that money.
I've lived my whole life here, and my opinion is that this is the worst fraud in human history, what is occurring in Minnesota and more specifically in the Twin Cities right now.
How much money do you think has been sent around fraudulently here inside Minnesota?
Over the years, I would say anywhere from 80 to $100 billion.
And right now, the big controversy.
Now, that could even be on the low end, to be perfectly honest with you, when you look at programs. Now, one such area that has also stated they are going to claw back that money is CMS. CMS covers Medicare, Medicaid, part of Health and Human Services. And Dr. Oz has put out his own video on the official CMS X account. He's also gone and done this interview with Laura Ingraham. And he says that federal laws tying voter registration to welfare programs like Medicaid and SNAP are definitely being exploited in Minnesota so that they can then register illegal aliens or non-citizens and then, of course, use those new registrations to bulk up the voter rolls, and those people are going to vote in one particular way for Democrats. So Dr. Oz confirmed with this latest announcement that they have discovered proof positive that Minnesota Democrats have been using this fraud scam to steal elections. He is pointing explicitly at Minnesota. It is a prime example and not the only example of how this system is being exploited. And, of course, he is accusing state officials of making it easy for fraudsters to make out like bandits. This is not simply a lack of oversight. This is intentional. There has been a concerted effort to allow the abuse of multiple systems across Minnesota so that they can steal money from all of these federal programs. And make no mistake, this is money that is supposed to be used for the most disadvantaged and the most vulnerable. Children, elderly, people who need a hand up that are not looking for a hand out. And the National Voter Registration Act framework allows for the enrollment of migrants into these very expensive welfare programs in these sanctuary states like Minnesota. Now, the National Voter Registration Act was enacted in 1993, and it was ostensibly to expand the voter registration access by mandating that various state offices also serve as voter registration agencies. Section 7 of the National Voter Registration Act requires states to offer voter registration opportunities to all offices that provide public assistance, including those administering programs like those that are currently being investigated: Medicaid, SNAP, WIC programs. And state agencies are federally mandated to provide voter registration applications with each application for assistance, as well as during recertification, renewal, or change of address. This creates a welfare to the ballot box pipeline, effectively allowing left-wing political machines to harvest votes while at the same time draining federal resources. Now, all of those federal resources are currently being cataloged through audits in the state of Minnesota and in every other state where fraud has been identified. I beg a moment to suggest that this has happened in all 50 states, perhaps not at the same rate as we've seen in Minnesota, but there is going to be a tremendous amount of money that needs to be clawed back by the federal government, and it also means that a lot of people are going to go to jail.
Well, these fraudsters, and you're right, Minnesota Nice made it easy for them to make out like bandits. But let me share something with you that I learned recently. By federal law, if you sign someone up for Medicaid, you also give them the right to vote. So ironically, it's true for SNAP as well. As you give out social services, you also get them registered to vote. So you're building up a very partisan group of individuals. This is political patronage at the expense of Medicaid. The criminal part here is not just a horrible waste and fraud and abuse of our federal tax dollars, but you're taking money from our most vulnerable citizens. If you're lying about the fact that you have Somalian kids pretending to be autistic, that takes services away from kids who truly have autism. You're trying to make money off of an illness that is a challenge that's already significant, and you're penalizing our most vulnerable. This president, Secretary of Health and Human Services Bobby Kennedy, will not tolerate this. We're aggressively going after this fraud. Jim O'Neill and I are pursuing this aggressively.
And aggressively is the only way that we can go about this, because if these people are allowed to get away with what they've been doing, nothing will ever change. This government system that we have has intentionally been designed to allow people to steal as much money as possible. Now, right here, this is Dr. Oz confirming exactly what we just talked about, so I don't need to play that video again. Now, also, did you guys know that Ayanna Pressley, Democrat from Massachusetts, she is, of course, a member of the Squad. Her ex-husband, Conan Harris, is also a convicted felon. And I guess he actually was part of this fraud network that he was questioned about, and he didn't like that. So he was asked to comment on the fraud, and he ignored the question, but somebody took it and actually went after the person asking the fraud, slapped the phone out of their hand. Take a look at this. Where's the volume? Well, I guess maybe there is no volume. But you can see here, you can't hear the audio. Somebody asks as they're walking through Congress, what can you tell us about this fraud? Boom. Commit assault. Slap the phone out of their hands. Of course, I wonder if Ayanna Pressley has benefited from this in any way. Well, let's go ahead and take a look. You know, she's a socialist. She, in her financial disclosures, declared that she had $1 million in assets. Why is that socialists are always super wealthy? And how is it that in her latest financial disclosure, she went from $1 million in assets up to as much as $8 million in assets? Socialists are always super rich, and yet they tell the American people that we've got to give more of what we own to the collective so that the collective good can be served. Of course, their personal good is always first and foremost, but they want us to give more of what we made. It's our hard-earned money. Now, let me say thank you to Lee Walden. He said, I want to start a gifts and go for the inmates that will have Tim Pun Tim in their block. The boys would appreciate money in their canteen and be more than willing to show him a good time, bitch. All right. Now, as an example of what those agents on the streets of Minneapolis are facing, here is an attempt to arrest an illegal alien inside a local Chipotle. And you can see exactly what I was talking about before. These boys are wiry, and they do not want to go willingly. And then you got the Chipotle employees. I love that he's grabbing him by the belt. Let's go, boy.
Por favor, me están golpeando. Ya me están golpeando. No, no. Enséñales el permiso. No, déjame el permiso. Sácalo igual. Por favor. Ahí lo tengan abajo tu salón. Le están haciendo daño. Sácalo. Por favor.
Por favor.
Le están haciendo daño. Le está haciendo daño. Por Dios.
This guy is like the size of a 12-year-old, and he's got 3 agents trying to get him into a position where they can get cuffs on him. My God. He's got the strength of 10 gorillas. He's got the keys. Let me get the keys from him. Let me get the keys. All right. Now, this is the story of the day. So ICE agents were in a local neighborhood, and they were attempting to arrest some criminals. Well, rioters, protesters showed up. They started surrounding them. We've got a couple of different videos to show you guys of what was taking place. One of these rioters, a woman, was driving a car, and she tried to run over the ICE agents. Now, they told her, get out of the car, after they had given her ample opportunity to do so. There was an ICE agent directly in front of the vehicle. She backed up. She started moving forward, and he discharged his weapon multiple times. You know, a lot of people have said, why did he have to shoot her? There was no reason to shoot her. I'll tell you what, this is exactly what they're trained to do. You got a car coming at you. The only way that you can disable the driver is to discharge your weapon. Hopefully it's enough to make them stop. But this officer used his training, and she effed around and found out. It's very sad, but it's also very different from what happened with Ashley Babbitt. Ashley Babbitt was not armed. She was not driving a vehicle. She was popping through a window, and they shot her once, and leftists celebrated. I'm not going to celebrate the death of a woman, but she should have known better. And again, this is the logical extension of what happens when your political leaders tell you that ICE agents are the same as the Nazi Gestapo and they are not human. So Homeland Security said today ICE officers in Minneapolis were conducting targeted operations when rioters began blocking ICE officers, and one of these violent rioters weaponized her vehicle, attempting to run over our law enforcement officers in an attempt to kill him. It was an act of domestic terrorism. An ICE officer, fearing for his life, the lives of his fellow law enforcement, and the safety of the public, fired defensive shots. Now, let me also remind you, ICE agents have also been run over by people just like her. They have been dragged by people just like her. People have intentionally driven their cars towards ICE officers, and I think that they have used incredible restraint up until this point. They continue by saying he used his training and saved his own life and that of his fellow officers. The alleged perpetrator was hit and is deceased. The ICE officers who were hurt are expected to make full recoveries. This is the direct consequence of constant attacks and demonization of our officers by sanctuary politicians who fuel and encourage rampant assaults on our law enforcement, who are facing a 1,300% increase in assaults against them and an 8,000% increase in death threats. This is an evolving situation, and we will give the public more information as soon as it becomes available. Now, the city of Minneapolis is also not very happy about this. They confirmed that this ICE-involved shooting occurred near East 34th Street and Portland Avenue in South Minneapolis. They tweeted out, "We are aware of a shooting involving federal law enforcement. Please avoid this area. We are aware and we are working to confirm additional information, but what we know is that the presence of federal enforcement immigration agents is causing chaos in our city and making our community less safe. No, the protesters using their vehicles as weapons are making the streets less safe." Governor Walz says, "My public safety team is working to gather information on an ICE-related shooting this morning. We will share information as we learn more. In the meantime, I ask folks to remain calm." Mayor Jacob Umbutu Fry said, "I am aware of a shooting involving an ICE agent at 34th Street in Portland. The presence of federal immigration enforcement agents is causing chaos in our city. No, it's your people that are causing chaos. We're demanding ICE to leave the city immediately. Not going to happen. We stand rock solid with our immigrant and refugee communities. Immigrants and refugees are not the same thing as illegal aliens, which is who ICE is there to arrest." All right, so here is footage. The moment where this woman is shot. Kristi Noem also made the statement, "It was an act of domestic terrorism." What happened was our ICE officers were out in an enforcement action. They got stuck in the snow because of the adverse weather that is Minneapolis. They were attempting to push out their vehicle, and a woman attacked them and those surrounding them and attempted to run them over and ram them with her vehicle. An officer of ours acted quickly and defensively shot to protect himself and the people around him. My understanding is that she was hit and she is deceased. We're going to watch. I just want to tell everybody there's not going to be any blood. You're not going to see this woman actually shot, but you're going to see the moment that it happens. She's blocking the road.
No!
They tell her to get out. She starts driving.
Shame! Oh my fucking God!
And she smashes into some other cars.
What the fuck?
Dead as a doornail.
What the fuck did you do? Get the fuck out of our neighborhood.
Here's another angle. You can see, well, you can't see in this video right here, but there's a lot of people. All right. You might remember in Chicago when ICE agents were surrounded by like a group of 100 protesters, and the Chicago police were called, 911 was called, and then they never came. They started leaving, and then they were told to stand down and just let these guys fend for themselves. They're lucky that nobody died at that time.
What the fuck?
She hit those cars
what the
hard.
fuck? Dude.
All right, I've got more videos, so don't worry. You can see here, this officer is right in front. She turns the wheels directly towards him, and it's after he shoots her that she veers off. Nobody was directly hurt. He might have gotten his foot run over. This guy, obviously, hanging onto the door. He was in danger of being dragged. We don't need to hear the audio on the slowed down version, but it looks like she actually clipped the officer right here, and I don't think that he discharged until she clipped him. But you're driving a car, officer has a gun trained on you, you stop, all right? Boom, he gets hit, and then he fires, all right? So that's a very important note here. It's not like he started unloading on her before she actually even started driving. Now, this is another angle, but it's also very similar to what we saw previously. Oh, gosh. Now, I don't know if she was gone before she hit those cars or if she hit the gas hard because she knew she was about to die. I think she's gone by this point because she's got her foot on that gas pedal and she's not going anywhere. All right, well, you can imagine how bad things went after that point because then a lot more people started showing up. Let me say thank you very much to Lee Walden, who says, Zach, please review Promethean Action. Very insightful. They are definitely worth our attention. I'll go ahead and check them out. Is that a channel? Northern Pike says, Christy Nome just needs a cigar and glasses, and she looks like Groucho Marx. That might be. Lee Walden says, I'm a bit troubled by sanctuary cities or states. Does our Constitution allow it? Or if so, it seems like it's been poisoned. Yeah, no, I mean, it doesn't allow it. And that's why we have these issues that are going on right now. Let me say thank you also. Gosh, we got a whole bunch of gold pills over here. Where did I leave off? I left off with no thanks. Joe, Filter Dog, I need security in Minneapolis as soon as humanly possible. I will gladly compensate as well. It's too unsafe for me to report on the ground out here alone right now. That's from Nick Sorter. Sean Joe, thank you for the cookie. God is with us 17 says, love Caroline Levitt. She's the best. I love her as well. She's great. Sean Joe, thank you for the cookie. NX17, thank you for the can. And Tracy says, Zach, there was an officer in front of the car who did the shooting. Yes, ma'am. And that's what we just saw. I think I have another view from Nick Sorter. Actually, no, this is, okay. So this is the shooting and then the aftermath of the shooting where ICE actually hits a dude in the face with a pepper spray can. Hold on.
Get back! Get back!
Boom. Did you see that? He got hit in the head with a Coke can. Dude just walked off. All right, but pay attention on the left.
Get back! Get back!
That didn't feel good, I know. Okay, so this is... All right, so this is where her car was stalled. All of these people in the background are the people who started showing up after the shooting. These people are down the street. That guy getting shot in the face is obviously upset.
Help someone else!
Oh, dude, his face is going to swell up. It's going to swell up good, let me tell you. Let me see here. Could have sworn I had another one from... Yeah, this is Nick right here. Hold on, let me refresh. Northern Pike, obstruct justice and get unalived. All right, so this is the mob that formed afterwards, and I think it's a different angle of that dude getting hit in the face. Let me go to Nick's page here, though, because I know somebody just said that there was another angle. Oh, my gosh, and this is what it is right now. You've got a lot of people. Pretty sure that the National Guard is going to be deployed. It's funny because Governor Walz gave a speech. Oh, my God. I saw somebody mentioning this non-binary individual. Yeah, here are some Blackhawks that are coming in from the federal government in anticipation of likely the National Guard being deployed. You know what? I could probably just stay on Nick's profile here because he's got all of these videos. But somebody said that there was a different angle from in front of the car that we haven't seen yet. I haven't found that, only the angles that I showed. Yeah, I think that I have shown all of the angles, but take a look real briefly at the leftist protesters who are now engaging, or were earlier today engaging with federal officials. You don't need to hear them on full volume. But obviously, this is now a very tenuous situation. And yeah, that's the guy getting hit in the face. What's particularly interesting about it is now that the Supreme Court has essentially told President Trump he can't deploy the National Guard in situations like this, it's prime time for the invocation of the Insurrection Act and the deployment of the Marines. Yeah, start arresting them. Okay. Here's the F around and find out.
Move!
Get him in the face. Get him. Face. Yes, face.
Get out. Chris, get out the way. Get out the way of the truck. Move. Fuck you.
Not gonna see anyway. I need milk. Whew, yeah, it is hot in Minneapolis right now. Lee Walden at Promethean Action. Okay, so you're saying it's a channel on Rumble. Okay. All right. Now, let me jump back up here to the top because Nick's got some new developments that have taken place. Here he is saying that he needs security in Minneapolis. All right. Here is Kristi Noem speaking on the actions that took place today.
I've spoken to the president today on the situation here on the ground. I also just got off the phone a little while ago with Governor Walz and spoke to him as well. I want to reiterate first with all of you the facts of what happened today. At 10:25 a.m. Central Time, Immigration and Customs Enforcement were carrying out lawful operations here in Minneapolis. Because of the adverse weather that Minneapolis has seen in recent snow, one of the vehicles became stuck and ensnared in the snow. Law enforcement were attempting to push out this vehicle, and when a mob of agitators that were harassing them all day began.
Those leftists always bring out umbrellas because they can use them to cover their faces. They can cover, they can stop the spray from hitting them in the face. It also helps them obscure their identities.
Blocking them in, shouting at them, and impeding law enforcement operations. ICE officers and agents approached the vehicle of the individual in question, who was blocking the officers in with her vehicle, and she had been stalking and impeding their work all throughout the day. ICE agents repeatedly ordered her to get out of the car and to stop obstructing law enforcement, but she refused to obey their commands. She then proceeded to weaponize her vehicle and attempted to run a law enforcement officer over. This appears as an attempt to kill or to cause bodily harm to agents, an act of domestic terrorism. The ICE officer, fearing for his life and the other officers around him and the safety of the public, fired defensive shots. He used his training to save his own life and that of his colleagues. He was treated at a local hospital, has been released, and is now with family.
All right. Here also appears to be the wife of the woman who was just killed. I guess she was outside the vehicle filming. She was trying to get footage for, I guess, whatever it is they want to achieve. But here you can see it's getting dark in Minnesota, and there's a lot of people on the street. This is gonna be bad tonight, I would imagine. This is clearly from a helicopter I mean, you know, because it is, look, they got a fire. They lit a fire. Or those candles. Oh, yeah, they've got a sort of memorial for the woman who was shot. I can't tell who's who. I don't know who's a protester. I don't know who's ICE. I don't know who's local police. I guess that Minneapolis police withdrew from the situation afterwards. Here is Nick speaking on Fox, it looks like.
A protest is being planned at the federal building, and that's going to be taking place after dark. That's when things really...
They already had all of those shame signs made up, probably.
Really get bad in areas like this. That's when we saw in like 2020, all of this stuff, like the Summer of Love, after George Floyd, it was the same mayor and the same actions that were being taken, where they take the police out of the area and people are allowed to run the streets wild. I actually couldn't even get to the place where I wanted to do this hit from because a lot of these anarchists now have the roads blocked and police are nowhere to be found. It's devolving then.
Yeah, it is devolving quickly. Let me see. Any other footage? No. Rioters have just smashed the doors of the federal courthouse in downtown Minneapolis. That's interesting. This is actually good news because the military would ostensibly be deployed to protect federal targets. Yeah, this is, it's a foregone conclusion. The military is going to be deployed. Now, Tim Walz calling the agent who shot that woman who's using her car as a weapon, calling him a rogue agent.
Of nature, if it's a global pandemic, or in this case, if it is a rogue federal agent. I don't know at this time, and I want to be very careful. It's unprecedented that we have the federal government's already determined exactly what's happened here and the motives of an individual that we don't even know the name. They don't know the name. And that's very difficult. So, of nature.
Yeah, I think that it was pretty obvious what took place. He's upset that the federal government is not telling him where the raids are going to take place. Why would the federal government tell him anything? Now, this is Tim Walz threatening to deploy the National Guard, not to protect the streets of Minnesota, but to stop ICE from doing raids.
To prepare the Minnesota National Guard. We have soldiers in training and prepared to be deployed if necessary. I remind you, a warning order is a heads up for folks. And these National Guard troops are our National Guard troops. They're teachers in your community, they're business owners, they're construction professionals. They are Minnesotans. Minnesota will not allow our community to be used as a prop in a national political fight. We will not take the bait. We will continue to update you, Minnesota, as we get more information. Now I'd like to turn it over to Commissioner.
All right. Now, here is that footage of the wife of the woman who was shot. She's the one. Okay. Hold on.
Get the fuck out of our neighborhood.
That's her right there.
The fuck?
That's her.
This lady got blood. They don't. She was in the car with her, bro. Or she tried to save her or something. Somebody. Hey, was you riding with her? Did you call any of your people yet?
We're new here. I don't have.
She said, we're new here. Maybe I don't even know if they're from the area. Did they just show up? They thought they were going to do a meet cute with ICE?
You don't got none of her family members or anybody number? Do you know anybody on her Facebook? Alright. Damn.
Bro clearly is not used to doing interviews. Here are some pictures of them together. I don't know if that's from their Facebook or something like that. But yeah, so she's outside the vehicle before this woman gets shot. She's getting video of ICE agents thinking that they're going to I don't know, stand up to the man or something like that. Good luck with that. Lee Walden also says, thanks for the great awakening. We will see chaos in the streets and a surge in the big, ugly, stupid will be the word of the day. Buckle up. We will prevail. Thank you, Jesus. We got this. Let's see. No thanks, Joe. Also says, I'm sure you've reported on the Captain Michael Bird or not, but he and his wife have been running an unaccredited daycare for a while. Yes, since 2008. It was one of the first stories I talked about at the start of the show. Filter Dog gives us a status from Colin Rugg. Let's go ahead and take a look at that in just a moment. But first of all, it turns out that the Somalian Minister of Foreign Affairs owns a lumber company in Minneapolis, and Libs of TikTok drove by it. Now, this same address has a money transfer business, which has previously been accused of financing terrorism by sending money to Al-Shabaab. And it turns out it's not actually a publicly available money transfer business. It's not even a lumber company. It's actually an Islamic school, which teaches classes on the Quran. But it doesn't even look like they do that because the entire place is boarded up. And it appears that there's nothing actually going on there. Just another opportunity for fraud. Seems legit. Blacked out windows, covered up doors, no activity. Just a hell of a lot of money finding its way through there. Dar Al-Quran Foundation and the Masjid Al-Quran money laundering opportunity. So yeah, this is the paperwork for the Somalian Minister of Foreign Affairs, who also owns a healthcare company in Minneapolis. Spoken about them previously. This guy has his fingers in all of these businesses. Let's see. I actually played this already, so we don't need to do this one again. But right here, she is a 37-year-old woman who is now deceased. We still don't know her name. Maybe we'll find that out later. Not super worried about it. Now, another Somalian company, the SERC. This is the Somali Education Resource Center. Beaver. Oh, Beaver followed me. Well, thank you very much, Beaver. Glad to have you as a follower. She discovered that this Somali Education Resource Center in Columbus, Ohio, is the recipient of $13 million in PPP loans. Now, the Somali Education Resource Center is like a front for a whole host of other businesses and shell companies. Over 40 daycares are registered to them, and even more in healthcare service companies. So there is a whole hell of a lot going on with this place. And this actually is a citizen journalist going to the offices of the Somali Education Resource Center. And just like all those other healthcare resource companies and trucking companies, once they get there, there's nothing there. This particular organization has received over $42 million, and it appears that it's just another front company.
All right, guys, so we are here. We found it, finally, all day long, the Somali Education Resource Center. Suite 301 here at 299 East Granville Road in Dublin, Ohio. Now, the deal is that $14 million into this center here. This is a single office. And by the way, there's nothing inside it. We've already looked. It is very, very, very much dark, and it looks like there's maybe a couch inside. So not anything here. Very nice security system, which I found very strange. So I assume that they would probably have now taken our video and everything of us standing out here. But there is nothing here.
Her name is Renee Nicole Good, 37-year-old white dyke terrorist.
And again, where's the money? That's the real question. Where is the money? Because the organization is supposedly $42 million over the past few years in taxpayer funding, and we have no access, and we have no idea where it is. So we're just trying to ask some questions here, and we have yet to find anything at all. So we're going to...
All right. Don't think that there's anything else to find out because, of course, nobody is actually doing business there. These people are just professional fraudsters. Now, the Department of Health and Human Services has also confirmed what we talked about, I believe, at the beginning of this week or perhaps the end of last week, that the UN ambassador for Somalia definitely was involved in healthcare companies that were convicted of Medicaid fraud. It is not a rumor. It is confirmed by the Department of Health and Human Services official account. Abu Kar Dahir Osman, the Somali ambassador to the United Nations, was involved in a healthcare company that was convicted of Medicaid fraud here in the United States. His company's NPI appears on the HHS Office of Inspector General website exclusion list under Code 1128A1. That is somebody who's convicted of program-related crimes. They have a mandatory minimum 5-year exclusion from doing any business with Medicare or Medicaid. This is the guy who just assumed the rotating presidency of the UN Security Council on January 1st of 2026. He now has authority to set the global agenda, oversee international peacekeeping operations, and authorize United Nations military actions. He worked as a supervisor at the Medicaid office in Franklin County, Ohio, listed as a daycare administrator in the state, connected to a healthcare company convicted of defrauding American taxpayers. This one guy doing all of that, a Somali in the United States of America, and HHS Jim, the same guy who we played a video from not that long ago saying that all money from HHS going to the state of Minnesota is being shut down. And he confirms that, yeah, this is the same guy. So we have another confirmation of Somali government fraudsters taking money out of the United States of America. But that's not all. We also have a Somalian member of parliament and the former Somalia security advisor, Abdullahi Kulain, also the proud owner of a healthcare company in the state of Minnesota. On their website, he is listed as the manager, spelled Maneger. He's also the former DEI coordinator at the St. Cloud Area School District in Minnesota. Of course he is. You can see here, Rizmi Health Transportation. This is one of those fake organizations that supposedly drives people around. Of course, there's nobody actually checking to make sure that people are being driven at all. And you can see here, official title, Maneger, the manager, also sitting as a federal member of the Parliament of Somalia. My goodness, it just goes on and on. We've got much more to talk about, but before we continue, another brief message from our friends over here on Rumble. You guys, I want to share a very quick story about a family supporting this channel. Their father had a rare form of cognitive decline due to his military service that made him unable to work. Their mother had to stop working too so she could take care of him. Their sons discovered new U.S. Library of Medicine studies on various mushroom blends that could significantly support cognitive function. So they began creating a complex mushroom supplement based on that research, not just to help their own family, but also to help as many others as they could. They nearly quit after multiple setbacks and having their first batch stolen. Fast forward, and now they speak at medical conventions nationwide. Their company is called Emerald Med, and their product massively supports brain, immune, blood, and heart function. Your cognitive function optimizes everything you do. You can get knees, hearts, kidneys, all of that replaced, but you cannot get a new brain. So investing in the only brain you'll have for the rest of your life is pretty important. If you want to support a company that supports this channel and free speech with their marketing, and you want to try a strong mushroom supplement, they are running a New Year's deal. You can just click the link below and use the code for 30% off today. It's currently the most concentrated mushroom gummy in the U.S., and it has up to 400 compounds, and it's rich in vitamins and minerals. With 6 formulas in one, it's like getting 6 supplements for the price of one. You can click the link below to try Emerald Med's mushroom gummies for 30% off today. Use that QR code or the link below. All right, continuing on with Minnesota and Somali fraud. What do we have here? Now we have an organization, and an announcement coming from the U.S. government. This is an official State Department website at U.S. Foreign Assist, and it appears that the State Department has now paused all ongoing U.S. assistance programs which benefit the Somali federal government. That's right. No more money going to Minnesota, going to any Somali fraudsters in the United States of America, and now also not going to the nation of Somalia because they are run by fraudsters. Any resumption of assistance will be dependent upon the Somali federal government taking accountability for its unacceptable actions and taking appropriate remedial steps. What kicked this off? Well, it appears that the federal government of Somalia officials have destroyed a U.S.-funded World Food Program warehouse and illegally seized 76 metric tons of donor-funded food aid for vulnerable Somali citizens. The Trump administration has a zero-tolerance policy for waste, theft, and diversion of life-saving assistance. So now there is no more aid going to the nation of Somalia because it was being stolen by the government of Somalia. Thank you very much to eGrab4, who says, I am 44 and I've lived with chronic back pain since my teens. I had fusion surgery in 2016. It sucks. I take turmeric every day, which helps feel better, Zach. Thank you very much. Hopefully you don't have to get surgery. Carlos 918 says, wow, this is what killed my dad. Vietnam vaccine. He passed in 2022. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, buddy. That's awful. Also, Lee Walden says, Zach, your gift allows you to share current news and all your insights is very honest. Please share what you think, what the promise of America means to you. The promise of America means the ability to live in a nation that, although not perfect, affords you certain freedoms, liberties, and the opportunities that are completely void and absent in other nations. Now, until recently, the promise of America was also something that made it very easily for people to engage in fraud, and that is now being addressed. The rule of law only goes so far as our incentive to enforce it. And the enforcement actions that were taking place were against good people trying to do good things, maybe sometimes doing the wrong thing occasionally, or unintentionally doing the wrong thing. And a lot of people were being prosecuted for things that didn't need to be prosecuted. Well, stuff like this went unaddressed. Truthfully, at the end of the day, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, obviously, that is the promise of America. But living in a nation that is governed by not only just action, but also enforceable actions that make sense. That truly needs to be back where we are. Lee Walden, thank you again. Also, ZBM says, Zach, did my first check-in call to see if I have jury duty this week. I'm so excited to finally get picked and be involved in my local government. Take better care of yourself, Zach. Loving the show. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. And I hope that you get that jury duty. All right, now, just real briefly, that Somalian human trafficking operation that I spoke about a week or two ago. This is actually from 2010, but it was 29 people who were arrested and indicted, and it was across Minnesota, Ohio, and Tennessee, just showing how broadly these people are operating. And you can see here, several of them have that characteristic Somali look, the large head and certain set to the eyes, but all of them have Muslim names, which should not surprise you at all. So this is not just a Somali problem. This is a Muslim problem. Some of these kids were as young as 13 years old, and several of these kids had been taken from their families and were being trafficked for years. This was operating for 10 years by the time this was shut down. So this is a big problem, and it's been a big problem for a very long time. I tried this Bitcoin tip. Does it take like 20 minutes? Yes, it can. So when your tip goes through, it will show up here in the chat, and we'll be able to see it. And actually, maybe I can check my Rumble wallet, and let's see if anything came through there, but it should show up in the chat. You have to use my face to log in. What? It's showing nothing in the tip jar. Maybe connect with Rumble. There we go. It's asking me to reconnect. Restoring from the local backup. Loading your Rumble wallet in 3, 2, 1. Okay. Definitely showing that people have tipped. Earlier today, that one came through. I said thank you for that one. And then 2 other times. Yes, $50 each time. You are a scholar and a gentleman. So I'm not showing anything other than the one that came through today. So it might take some time depending on the way that the tip is coming through. But It says still processing. Okay, well, that makes sense. So sometimes that happens. The Bitcoin network can take a little bit of time. But yeah, it should show up here in the chat when it comes through. Lee Walden says, you are the balls. I love you, brother. All right, so we're not going to be able to go through everything else that I have today because it's almost 7:30. But the House Oversight investigation into Somali fraud began today. Jim Comer opened up the hearing, and there was questions that were asked of representatives from Minnesota. Nancy Mace questioned a Democrat, and he could not answer these questions about what was going on in Minnesota. He was very upset that they were blaming Somalians, even though 90% of the fraud is being perpetrated by Somalians.
Question is, should Somalians who committed fraud be denaturalized and deported, Mr. Bayou?
Again,
Yes
I'm not
or
sure
no?
that's an appropriate question because the majority of Somali
So if you
Minnesotans
commit
are
fraud in
citizens.
this country and you are here from Somalia, you don't believe they should be denaturalized and deported?
They
How much
should.
fraud would it take for you to want to denaturalize and deport someone who committed fraud in this country? How much?
Again,
A
Ms.
billion?
Mace,
9 billion? 19 billion? What would it take for you?
most Somali Minnesotans are citizens.
Right. And the one.
Right, and they would be denaturalized if they were committing fraud. That's the question. He can't answer it. It was really pathetic. Now, Tom Emmer was all of the Republicans were great today, but Tom Emmer was very fiery, probably because he has more to lose here than anybody else in Congress, because he created the Somali caucus with Keith Ellison, who is now implicated in this fraud scheme. And he wanted to establish that the fault here was with Walz and the Walz administration. So his questions tended to focus on that. And it was pretty obvious that the people who were there definitely wanted to blame Tim Walz and the Walz administration as well. I am perfectly fine with that. Now, he also asked, is it true 90% of the individuals who have been charged so far, regardless of your colleague with his facts and figures, 90% of the individuals charged and indicted in the Feeding Our Future scam are of Somali descent? That's correct. Okay, so obviously we've established that the problem is with the Somali community largely. Now, Anna Paulina Luna, she made a couple of things today that were very notable. First of all, she put both Tim Walz and Keith Ellison up for indictments. She referred them to the DOJ for criminal charges. She also appears to have made comments about making sure that nobody in Congress has dual citizenship. I love it. I am loving her more and more every single day. I hope that the DOJ finds that both Tim Walz and Keith Ellison are worthy of criminal indictments, because as I am sitting here today, they are. Now, she also moved to subpoena Ilhan Omar and her husband's immigration records into the Oversight Committee. Federal marriage fraud and knowingly entering a marriage to evade immigration laws is a serious felony punishable by prison time, steep fines, denaturalization, and deportation. Marrying a sibling is illegal in every state. We intend to get to the bottom of it. End the fraud, denaturalize, and deport Ilhan Omar. Love it. Keep going, babe. Keep going. Thank you to P. Blue for the $20 rant. Also says, thank you. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. Now, this is where it gets even spicier. A Minnesota auditor just dropped their report, and it confirms that Tim Walz's administration at the Department of Human Services fabricated records, faked evidence, did not verify grant recipients, and tried to cover their tracks by essentially doing illegal acts. It just got much, much worse for Tim Walz. Perhaps the most explosive revelation is that managers within DHS tried to cover their tracks by backdating and creating new documents. They sent out millions of dollars to grant money to organizations that they never bothered to check. They didn't see who was receiving them or who was cashing the checks. And auditors found a grantee that was paid $672,000 for 1 month of work without any verification or receipts of what they actually did. An audit says the grant manager who paid it then left the DHS a couple of days later. And guess what? They became a paid consultant for that company. This is Very, very illegal. So many indictments are coming down the pipeline. Here is that specific information. $672,647.78 for a single month of work. The total grant agreement was for $1.6 million. Then that grantee, the person who wrote the check and sent that out to this organization, then immediately went to go work for that organization. Like, that is definitely proof positive. Now, I do want to play this clip because I am particularly fond of Brandon Gill. Brandon Gill always brings the sauce, and he is always really good at humiliating the people that he wants to expose. I think Brandon Gill has a very bright future ahead of him. So give me just one moment to get past this ad right here.
Certainly stronger. Do you know what percentage of Somali-headed households in Minnesota are on food stamps?
No.
54%.
Thank you very much to Mohamud for the 5 gifted subscriptions. I appreciate you.
Do you know what that number is for native Minnesota-headed households?
Well, to be clear, a majority of the...
It's 7%. There's a big...
80% of Somalian households receive welfare. 7% of native Minnesotans receive welfare. Huge disparity.
Difference between 54% and 7%, is there not?
Excuse me, sir. Could I answer
Sorry,
the question?
54%.
Let me move on. We've got a lot of questions here. What percentage of Somali-headed households in Minnesota are on...
Oh, Mama Hood. Oh, okay. I thought it was a Muslim joke.
Medicaid.
I don't know.
$1.76 tipped via the Rumble wallet. Thank you very much, my friend. I appreciate it. Sorry, you guys. I need new glasses. My eyes are getting significantly worse. I'm having a lot of trouble reading at a distance.
It's 73%. Do you know what that number is for Minnesota native households?
Again, you're using the phrase Minnesota native households, but the majority...
The number is 18%. That's quite an astounding difference. I think we would agree.
Can I answer the question, please?
Let me ask you one more, and then we can go on to that. What percentage of Somali-headed households are on welfare in general?
I don't know.
It's 81%. What about... let me just ask you, after 10 years of being in the United States, what percentage of Somali immigrant households continue to be on welfare?
I don't know.
The number is 78%. So even after 10 years, 78% of Somali immigrant households continue to be on welfare. Do you know what that number is for native Minnesota-headed households?
If I can just answer the question, when you're using the phrase...
Newcomer Kimberly65 says, thank you, Zach, for all your hard work. Looking forward to watching every day. Thank you so much. And thank you to Lee Walden, who also says, I never thought I'd like that little jingle, Una Paduna Banca. That's so funny. Also, Dang Old Aggie says, I don't know, but it worked. Hey, Dang Old Aggie, thank you.
Native Minnesotans, the majority of Somali Minnesotans are as Minnesotan as any of us. They were born in the United States. It's only 8,000 of the 108,000 Somalis.
And nevertheless, the welfare usage is astoundingly different. Let me ask you again, does that make Minnesota stronger or weaker?
Again, I'd like the opportunity to answer the question here.
Go for
it. Again, the majority of Somali Minnesotans are born in the United States, as I understand it.
Okay, well, what percentage of working age Somalians who have been in the U.S. for 10 years or more, how many of them speak English very well?
I don't know.
About half. The answer is about half. That seems pretty low, doesn't it?
Again, I keep trying to...
It doesn't sound like something that makes our country stronger to me, and I think most Americans would agree with me on that.
Absolutely agree with Brandon Gill, and that guy is flamed. He went off like a Apollo rocket. Didn't work out for him, and it's not working out for many of them. Sean Joe, thank you for the cookie, and Kel Bell, thank you for the 100 gold pills. I appreciate you. All right, and thank you very much, everybody. I've got to go because I've got Altered State at 9 p.m. Please join me there, and I'm going to go ahead and raid you guys over to my brother CanCon's channel, as long as it's still, yes, it says it's still live. So let me go ahead and hit /raid. Boom. There we go. And yes, confirming the raid. All right, you guys, good luck. God bless. Passing out the gold pills, and we'll see you all on the next one.